This is Sherman Trey White from Podcast Media. I'm here looking for Bandit Incorporated.
Patch him in. Dear Sherman Trey White, there will be no podcast. There will be no Movie Mania. You are done. Your podcast is done. The First Order shall reign.
Alright, I'll hold.
Hello? Is he there? You can hear me, yes?
He should be able to hear you.
Looking for Bandit Incorporated, short guy, white, hates women.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? As you are finished. You are... Hello? Hello?
Look, I'm just trying to send a message, trying to let them know that we have a Last Jedi podcast to record, but if not, I can just go.
Yeah, Bandit, I think Trey's fucking with you.
We are tonight's entertainment.
You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Excellent!
Welcome, everybody, to the Movie Mania Podcast, episode 81. I'm Sherman Trey White of Podcast Media, joined again by Bandit and Trilby. Hello, everybody. How are we doing today?
Yeah, we're doing good. It's good to all be together again.
Yes, yeah.
Just like old times.
Yes. Oh, God. How was your guys' week? This is how this usually starts. I ask how your week was.
Well,
Bandit, you want to go first?
Okay, yeah. Yeah, my week was good. My week, of course, here in Australia, the movie came out, I think it was Thursday. It came out like midnight on the Wednesday, but I saw it on the Thursday. Then I saw it again on the weekend with all my friends, and I was the only one who bothered to show up in costume. Even though I went to the costume, I went to the costume shop and all of the good costumes were gone. So I was like, "That's okay. I'll just grab my nephew's broken lightsaber that doesn't actually light up when you press the button, and I'll just wear like a dressing gown." And there we go, done. So I ran into the movie theater and I like lightsabered my way across the foyer, and everybody was laughing except my friends. They were all really embarrassed, but I didn't care. I didn't care.
Wow, that's so sad. Wow, God, are you okay? Do you need a hug?
Well, I'll tell you something. When you show up in costume with all your friends and they're all in costume, everyone's like, "Yeah." When you show up alone and you're the only one in costume, very different reaction.
Oh yeah, everyone
like,
thinks you're.
Look at that sad loser over there.
Someone doesn't have friends. Yeah. That reminds me of, okay, so quick sidetrack before we get to Trilby's day or week. This video came out from one of the AMC theaters, which is in the theater chain here in the States, of like people waited in line for hours because AMC doesn't have reserved seating. And so everyone got into their screening, and then the movie started and there was no working sound. And so these group of people like all got up and started like rioting in the lobby of this AMC theater demanding that they restart the movie.
Yeah,
and it just, I don't know if you guys seen this? Have you guys seen this video? No, but like these guys are super like aggressive and angry.
I've not seen the video, but I've heard the story. Like there was no sound for a full 20 minutes.
Yeah,
the police were called.
Oh yeah,
it was a whole thing. I've not seen the video though. I feel sorry for the staff though.
Yeah, well, one of the the manager stepped out. Huh? Go ahead.
See, when you say Star Wars fans riot, I can just imagine a lot of nerds like complaining in very nasally voices. But this was like a riot.
Well, people weren't burning things, obviously, but there was like people were getting up in everyone's faces. There was a lot of aggression, and it wasn't like a bunch of nerds in costumes. It was really just looked like a bunch of normal people that waited probably for like an hour and a half to watch the movie.
Oh, I still want to see that video. Do they like kick the popcorn machine over and go?
This isn't the
scalding hot butter on people.
This isn't the Szechuan sauce. This is not that bad. But like the manager comes out and like he's just like this young guy. And he's like, hey, we are not restarting the movie, but if you want a refund, and everyone just starts freaking out. And everyone's like, where's your boss? And everyone starts just like chanting like restart the movie. And it's like it's insane. It made me feel bad as a Star Wars fan. Yeah, and I watched this video like 20 minutes ago. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, and then one of the staff members gets a blaster, shoots one of the patrons, and then says, the conversation was boring anyway. Luke, we've got company!
Could be an interesting precedent if whenever you see a bad movie, you just riot in the cinema. That could really change the way movies are made in future.
You mean that cops have to be there at like a concert? Like security just has to always be around just in case something bad happens?
Oh, gosh.
Well, Trilby,
Alright,
how was your week?
Yeah, how was your week, Trilby?
No, it was good. I saw The Last Jedi on Thursday night. Went with about 10
Really,
friends.
you saw Last Jedi? Wouldn't have figured it out.
Yeah. Me and like all 3 billion people in the world went to see it as well. It was me and like 10 friends got the entire back row of a theatre, and we watched it. And I'll elaborate more on their reactions, but some of them, it was all across the gamut, all of my friends' reactions. But with this past week, it's been good, been busy. Me and my partner just sorted out moving to a house. We're moving out of this flat into a house. That's going to be happening over the next week, hopefully be in there.
You didn't tell me we were
Christmas.
moving, Trilby. You didn't tell me we were moving.
Surprise! I wanted you to know on the podcast.
That's the second gay joke me and Trilby have done in like the last 3 episodes. I think the audience started to catch
the
on.
audience won't know this at time of recording, though, will they, Trey? December 17th is when we're recording this.
What was that joke you made a couple of podcasts ago? Like, it'll be out by Easter? Actually, it's getting that close.
And that's the 3rd time we've made a joke like that.
Mm-hmm.
Happy Easter, everyone. Keep a good thing going.
So I was making a short film, not the one I was making before, this new one I'm making, and we finished all the scenes until we put again like an assembly cut and rescreened it for my class I'm taking, and it was so just, I don't know if you guys have ever screened a film you made to a bunch of people. It is so like heart-wrenching. It's like, I won't give away spoilers right now. There are certain scenes in Last Jedi where your throat's in a knot. You're like, why is this happening? This is terrible. It was just like that. Like I was dying in my seat, and oh god, I felt like I was gonna vomit. And that was like
were you like George Lucas watching a Phantom Menace assembly cut, going, I think I may be in over my head here.
Yeah,
I can't take any scenes out because it all fits together.
But honestly, though, I feel it though, because I turned to my friend and I was like, I mean, we should probably get rid of that, but it needs to be there for the sake of the story. And like, I was like, I think I put too much in here.
Every bit kind of explains the next part.
And I'm like, well,
it's stylistically designed to be that way.
Yeah, I turned to my friend Jose. He helped me make it. I said, Jose, I mean, it rhymes. It has to be there. It all makes sense. It's like poetry. Oh, yeah. And then on Thursday night, I saw Star Wars. And the walk into the movie theater to see Star Wars is always so wrenching because I had an orchestra concert at 7 o'clock on Thursday, so I was not able to get to the first screenings. So I had tickets for 11 o'clock at the IMAX that night. And I made sure that when we got to the theater, the doors were already open. And I wouldn't have to wait in any lines to get in the theater because we got our tickets like the reserved seating. And so the walk into that cinema was like, I had headphones in. I had the music blaring because I didn't want, because there's always those people that are walking out of the theater being like, oh, wasn't it great when this happened? And they'll say quotes that made them laugh, and they'll talk about the ending, and it happens all the time, and I never want that to happen to me. So the walk was so treacherous because it's in the very back of the theater. So I'd walk through this massive lobby and down like this really long hallway trying to avoid Star Wars spoilers. And then like some of the doors to the cinemas were still open, and like the movie was starting, and you could hear the cheers. I'm like, oh god, I gotta hurry up and get in here. And so we finally sat down, and then I said, oh god, we have to get our popcorn. And so we had to get the popcorn and drinks. Oh, it's like an action.
Don't do it, Trey. It's spoiler suicide.
And my friend went and got the popcorn, and he came back and he's like, I know what happened. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, but if you tell me, I'll hurt you. But yeah, and then I saw it again in a private screening yesterday, which was nice. For anybody who has seen it, by the way, and didn't like it the first time,
of course, yes.
Oh, sorry, that sounded douchey.
The best way to watch any Star Wars movie.
No, I like Jamie. Like my friend was like, "Oh, hey, I rented it at a theater. Do you want to come? You want to go ahead?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll go." So I went and saw it. I didn't pirate it. I'll be honest with you. I've seen it twice. I never paid for it once. But that's just because I have nice people that are around me. It's anybody who has seen it once and didn't like it, see it again. I feel like you'll like it more the second time.
Yeah,
usually,
I concur with that. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've only seen it the once, but it has grown on me the more I've thought about it. It's stuck with me.
It is such a, we'll talk about it later, but my God, it's beautiful. Okay, let's jump into the movie news, shall we?
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. Cannonball!
All right, guys, this is a movie news portion of the show, which is up with the movie news that either wow. Wow.
It's not that late.
And
in
it was all
America,
going
Trey.
so well.
No, it's like 4:30 on a Sunday. I guess I'm just mentally gone. This is the movie news portion of the show. We talk about movie news that occurred over the last week. So we learned about this thing in U.S. history last year called monopolies, and it's. For those of you who don't know what monopoly is, it's essentially when you own like an entire market. For a long time, certain people had a monopoly in the oil market in the early 1900s. And I'm only bringing this up and boring our audience because Disney is developing a monopoly on the superhero world.
Let's talk about this. we should probably, to fit with the 21st century, we should, instead of calling it a monopoly, we should just say Google. Because that's pretty much what it is. It's like Disney is doing a Google where they just own everything in this field.
We will call it a Facebook.
If you would have invented a Facebook, you would have invented Facebook.
What's a MySpace? What's a Bebo?
I'll be honest
What the hell is Friendster?
I have no idea what Bebo is, but I can imagine it. No idea what that is. Yeah, so Disney bought Fox this week. And granted, not everything has been finalized by the American government, sure, but the deal has been made. And for $54 billion, is that right? I believe Disney
52.4.
Yeah, Disney has bought 20th Century Fox. Like, they got everything except, like, all the news stuff. I think that's what it is, which means that they now have James Cameron's Avatar, X-Men, Deadpool, all that stuff. Everything, all the film stuff, the Maze Runner, everything that Fox has is now in Disney's pocket. Do you guys watch? You guys
forgetting the most important one? They now have the iconic, the much beloved Fantastic Four. Yay!
Yeah. Yes.
Yay!
Yeah, no one's excited about that at all. But
and there was much rejoicing.
I'll be honest with you.
But if they get the Marvel treatment, we could finally get a good Fantastic Four movie.
Sure, but at the same time, I don't know if you guys follow Sam Gavin on Twitter, but I'm so with him on this. I'm like, I don't want Disney to have this as much as and I love the Disney Marvel movies.
Wolverine fight the Hulk? That can happen now.
Yes, I know it can happen.
Come
now.
back to fight the Hulk if he has to.
That's the one thing that good that comes out of this. But at the same time, if Disney always owned Fox, we would never have gotten a Logan or a Deadpool. True. There's so much stuff that we would have gotten that we wouldn't have gotten because they weren't handcuffed.
Deadpool now. Oh no, they're going to Disneyfy Deadpool.
Yeah, and granted, they may not. They may keep it the same, and they might not change things, but I just don't know what's going to happen to the X-Men franchise. Fantastic Four is nice, and you can keep that, and they'll probably do something good with Fantastic Four, but in terms of the X-Men, I'm not sure what's going to happen now.
Yeah, I love Disney, I love Fox, but I don't like the monopolistic implications of this. It's not just 20th Century Fox, the movie studio, it's also Fox TV, National Geographic, FX, and also Hulu, which may have implications for Disney's upcoming own streaming service. Maybe they'll shut down Hulu or incorporate elements of Hulu into their own Disney Netflix competitor in a few years' time. And also, they've got some controlling stake in Sky TV and ESPN, I believe, as well. They also own The Simpsons, Family Guy, American Dad, Alien, Predator, Die Hard. There's a lot of massive implications here. And also...
and Die Hard. Combine them.
That's
the universes.
Yep, that's the crossover. Yes. Why are we all talking about X-Men and Marvel? Why not? Yes, why not? There's. Just go a step further. We also need to have Jake Sully from Avatar meet Homer Simpson, and also meet Deadpool, because that's the crossover that the world has been waiting for.
Yeah. It would be. You no understand, Homer Simpson. No.
Yeah, Homer the Avatar. But I'm not a fan of the monopolistic aspect of this because anything that helps Rupert Murdoch, who now has like a 5% stake in Disney, is a net negative for the entire world. Yeah. But it's also how do companies such as Universal or Warner Brothers managed to compete against such a massive library, because we've seen Disney acquire companies or properties before, like the Muppets or Marvel Comics and Lucasfilm and such, and also Pixar. But this is an entire studio's catalog and intellectual property. This is massive. Yeah. This may be one of the biggest shifts in the movie industry since United States versus Paramount Pictures in like 70 years ago, when the entire Hollywood studio system got shuttered. So I think this is a massive deal. This is something that might not even be legal, which it might even be investigated by government officials over the coming months. it might actually have conflicts of interest is they may not be having Fox News because they have MSNBC. Is that the one that Disney owns, or is it ABC?
ABC.
Yeah, ABC. So they can't have ABC.
Disney
News
owns
also...
Matt Lauer.
So yeah, they can't have two. They can't have two news networks because there's conflicts of interest there. And let's not forget, it was only a month ago that Disney tried to shut down, was it the LA Times? Was it the New York Times? For an unfavorable story that they would not allow that publication to attend their movie press screenings because they published a story that Disney did not like. And this is happening a month after that, and all that everyone's talking about is X-Men meets Captain America, which I'm glad that internet discourse and film discourse has got people more interested in talking about the back dealings of Hollywood and intellectual property and stuff like that. But if that's the only thing people are bothered about, and not talking about the original negatives of Star Wars Episode 4 and New Hope, which 20th Century Fox do own,
I was about to say
that's the important thing.
We now have the original copy of New Hope, and Disney's not good. They're not going to do anything with it. I know they're not.
I think they will. They'll put it in the Disney Vault and release it on DVD every 5 years.
And for all the people listening who are like, what does it matter if Disney owns anything? Who cares? What does it matter if it's a monopoly? Well, it matters because, generally speaking, monopolies suck because once you get rid of the competition, you have no incentive to outperform anyone because you own everything. So if
the reason
Disney
people
owns
loved Logan, go ahead.
All movies are going to suck.
The reason people loved Logan so much is because it was such a different thing from the superhero world that people like Disney had owned the world trying to do, and it kind of changed the landscape of superheroes again, like what The Dark Knight did almost 10 years ago.
If I could, it's kind of like looking at like Fox and Disney, like pre this deal, it was kind of like a yin and yang thing. Like Fox would make a lot of junk, but every now and then you'd get like something that was really great, like a Logan or like an X-Men First Class, things that you just could not get in Disney. Disney, on the other hand, kind of makes a lot of great stuff, sort of great popcorn movies that's mainstream, but they are all kind of the same, and they do all have that. And you see that in The Last Jedi as well. They do all have that same kind of humor, and after a while it gets a bit tiresome. Like you said, we could not have a Logan if Disney. Well, we won't have a Logan now that Disney owns everything. I mean, you can't Disneyfy Wolverine for crying out loud.
And I love the fact that you brought up The Last Jedi as an example of Fox. Brought on filmmakers who were willing to make certain risks and certain changes. And while Rian Johnson, I think, did his best to make a different kind of Star Wars movie, you can still feel the minor handcuffs of Disney be like, oh, not so fast, like slow, like kind of keeping him just restrained enough with a lot of the Disney stuff that's in The Last Jedi that I'm just like, you could just cut all that Disney stuff out and it would have been a perfect movie.
Although, as weird as it might sound, you could put Porgs into the next Deadpool movie and it would probably actually work.
It would be fantastic. He would love those things.
Considering what he does to his unicorn toys.
These pink unicorns? Yes, this would be a different kind of Porg, yes.
Well, like Disney are currently in the business of franchising. Like they're going to expand their Marvel slate, their Star Wars slate, their Pixar slate and such. But with... One thing I've loved about Fox over the past couple of years has been their more original films. Like, they're not necessarily, like, original into, like, maybe they're based off a book or they're a reboot of something, but they felt really fresh. Like, would Disney make a Planet of the Apes trilogy like we've recently had? Would they make The Martian? Like, it's those type of... like really fresh type of films. Disney don't really make those. Like
there's the Orient Express. Like
right. Where is Disney's equivalent of The Martian? Like what, Tomorrowland? Yeah, that went well.
You know what, Trilby? You're absolutely right. Like while Disney is making movies, Fox is also now making movies, and their movies are coming out at the same time. But with it all under Disney, they can't just, unless they keep their same production team. But I feel like since it's all going to Disney, are they going to be able to pump out the same amount of movies that were coming out with Disney and Fox being separate studios? Because they were one of the big five, weren't they? One of the big six studios.
They were.
And now they're together, which is like what? Let me try to do that math. 40% of the big market? I don't know.
90% of all media in America is made by 6 companies. And if this merger goes through, that's 5 companies. That's insane.
Yeah.
The implications of this are very huge. And while there was lots of conversations to be had about X-Men joining the MCU or Fantastic Four in Phase 4 or whatever, I think if we allow the discourse to only talk about those topics, we are missing a much bigger picture.
Yes.
that's like, have the fun talks, but there's also the fact that many jobs are probably going to be lost in this merger as well, because you're going to have to cut some of the fat from 20th Century Fox that won't be needed at Disney anymore. So this is a biblically large deal.
I feel like we're like the parents at Christmas. They're like, everyone's like really excited to like open up their gifts. We're like, no, one at a time, oldest to young, or youngest.
I feel like
to
Donald
oldest.
Duck trying to like make things calm with Huey, Dewey, and Louie opening their presents.
Yeah, we're like ruining everybody's fun. That's an obscure poll there, Trilby.
I actually watched like Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas the other day. That's why I feel like
Disney's Christmas Carol was on TV like yesterday, and I watched it yesterday morning. It's a good movie.
So, but what though can we as fans actually do? Should we like should we support like more independent films? Like, what can we do to like?
I think we should always support
that is Disney and
well, I think
and bring in more competition in films, because that's ultimately good for us. It's good for the audience.
Yeah. Well, I think the only thing we can ever do in terms of movie studios is speak with our wallets. The reason something people are. Something like Logan, it got to exist is because Deadpool showed that you can make a successful R-rated movie, because it made more than almost all, if not all, the X-Men movies. Disney showed that they could do the Star Wars thing again, because Force Awakens made $2.7 billion or whatever, how much it made. Like, it made a lot of money, and other stuff that doesn't make money, like Justice League, they have to go back and rethink their entire strategy because people aren't seeing it. So if we're worried that like, oh, should we just stop watching Disney movies? I guess, if they're not good, then people won't see them, hopefully. And eventually people will catch on and not watch Disney stuff anymore.
But I'd also say that after having seen Last Jedi, and we'll talk a bit more about this in detail probably when we get to the spoiler section, the internet very clearly has affected how this movie unfolded as well, and I'll explain the details in spoiler. But
absolutely,
in that regard, like we can speak with our wallets, but I think people can also do what like all three of us in this podcast in different ways do, which is we make our own stuff and we put it out there, because that does flow over into the big boy Disney kind of thing as well.
It's amazing how much Rian Johnson just decided that he was just like, you know what? No, I'm not going to do that. I just, it's so loved all that. Okay, it's so beautiful. Anyone have any more comments about this Fox Disney deal?
Not really. There's just one more like little note that's buried in the news story, is that Bob Iger is going to be extending his contract up until 2021 to oversee the assets move over. So
see, now it feels like at the end of episode 2, where like the Clone Wars have begun or whatever, and like you hear the Imperial March start playing, and it's like Darth Sidious is like now taking over the politics. I don't know. Well, we'll be okay. I think we'll be fine. Incredibles 2 is still coming out, so that's all I have to stress of. Incredibles 2 and Infinity
War
come
everything
out.
Is better.
Yeah, like Incredibles 2 and Infinity War come out within like a month of each other, and I'm just going to be a happy boy. And in between that is the Han Solo movie, and so I'll have something to watch until that happens.
Incredibles 2, wow, that's been a long time coming, hasn't it?
Yes, it'll be 14 years in June when it comes to the movie.
It's been that long.
Yes, wow. I remember going to see it as being a little tiny boy. I remember.
You were Jack's age then, weren't you, Trey?
I was 4, so no, truly, it was not Jack's age.
That movie holds up too. It really does.
Oh,
it is.
Yeah.
I recommend everyone listen to the soundtrack from that movie, like especially, I think it's called Kronos Revealed, which I talked about before on the show, when Mr. Incredible finds out that all the supers are being killed off. It's a fantastic score by Michael Giacchino.
Well, that theme is just awesome jazz music, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like high-octane jazz that you could play at a dance club.
Yeah, it's like they go into the casino playing. Oh, spoilers. Excuse me.
Okay, then they go into the Star Wars cantina, and instead of the da 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 da, they're playing the Incredibles theme.
But what's great is that you could play that in literally any. It's like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air thing. Literally everybody knows what it is once it starts playing. People are just like, oh, that's Incredibles. It's amazing how iconic that film has become. Okay, so Joby, did you want to talk about the Golden Globes?
Yeah, just a quick thing. The nominees were announced this past week. Because as you know, the Golden Globes, they mix up the categories, so it's drama or musical or comedy. And for drama, we've got Call Me by Your Name, Dunkirk, The Post, The Shape of Water, and Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. And for musical or comedy, The Disaster Artist, The Greatest Showman, I, Tonya, Lady Bird, and for some bloody reason, Get Out.
I saw Disaster Artist. It's great, by the way.
That hasn't come out here yet. I still want to see that.
It's fantastic.
It's got a limited release in the UK. Nowhere near me is playing it at social time.
I did not.
Oh, hi, Trey.
You can't look at the camera. What? No, this big Hollywood movie. It's really funny, guys. It's funny, but it's also really dramatic. It's
the
very
book
well
is
done.
great. I've been reading the book the past couple of weeks, and that's a great read.
Do they
as well.
talk about the sex scene they did and how, like, what happened on that day in the book? I don't know if you've gotten that part of the book.
Yeah, they talk about that, and just Tommy Wiseau's treatment of the woman who plays Lisa. That's just horrible.
It's terrible in the movie, man. Like it's amazing what happened on that set and how just like everyone has. It makes you really think about the goods and bads of dreams, and it's a very good movie. It's one of my favorites of the year for sure, and I think it deserves a nomination.
Where do you reckon Tommy Wiseau is actually from? Because he keeps it secret. Like no one understands.
According
that
to his IMDb page, he's from Poland. According to his IMDb page, he's from Poland and he's 62 years old. But I don't know if that's confirmed or not. I don't know if he paid them to put it on there, just put it there like that. So I don't know.
Because in interviews, when people ask him, like, where are you from? What's that accent? He's like, I am American. This is American
in the movie,
accent.
he's saying he keeps saying he's from Louisiana. So
yeah. But for the Golden Globes, we do also have James Franco's nominated for Best Actor in Musical or Comedy for Disaster Artist. Also in there, Ansel Elgort in Baby Driver, nominated for Best Actor in Musical or Comedy. The only nominee that Baby Driver has. We've got the usual suspects in terms of like the actors. We've got Daniel Day-Lewis for Phantom Thread, Tom Hanks in The Post, Gary Oldman in Darkest Hour, Sally Hawkins in Shape of Water, Jessica Chastain in Molly's Game, Meryl Streep in The Post, and yada yada yada. Emma Stone and Steve Carell in Battle of the Sexes, Margot Robbie, I, Tonya. Lady Bird's got a few nominees as well. Judi Dench is there. And also Christopher Plummer for All the Money in the World.
What did... yeah, he deserves something after what that movie went through. What did Judi Dench do that got his nomination?
Victoria and Abdul.
Ah, okay, that's right. Right.
It was a big deal when it got released in the UK. I never saw it because I
got a screening too, but I was working on the musical. So I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, Get Out. Was that the only thing it got nominated for with Best Picture?
No, it also got Best Actor for Daniel Kaluuya for musical or comedy.
I think for writing or directing, huh?
Let me double check. Okay, so it was nominated for Best Musical or Comedy, Best Actor in Musical or Comedy. Yeah, it was just those two. No screenplay, no... yeah.
Shame. All right. Well, listen, in my opinion, that's not as egregious as The Martian being nominated a couple of years back, because The Martian was a character drama about a guy using his lighthearted sense of optimism to survive. Get Out is a satirical, horrific comedy, and it finds that beautiful sweet spot and works the line a lot. So I think it works far better in terms of being nominated for a comedy.
It just doesn't sit right with me. Okay. Because I found it quite horrifying to watch. And while not saying that dramas can't have funny moments or that comedies can't have dramatic moments and such, but I just think it's more egregious than The Martian, I think. Because The Martian, there's probably a lot more laughs in that than Get Out, even though Get Out has, what's his name, as the best friend character who is just consistently hysterical.
Yeah.
What's his name? Trying to find it. But yeah, the best friend character who's funny in every scene he's in, but it's still just really gets really under your skin. It's probably one of the best or second best film I've seen all year. Yeah. But it not for the laughs. It showed just massive tonal restraint. That should be a drama, absolutely. But it's just having a horror film get any sort of recognition at one of these award shows is a victory in and of itself, especially for an acting award for Daniel Kaluuya. He's not going to win, but him being there on the day, being nominated, that's a big deal, I think. But hopefully when it comes to the Oscars, it's going to get more of a reception akin to The Exorcist, where maybe The Exorcist is not as good as Get Out or vice versa, but hopefully it's going to be a horror film that has broken through to the mainstream to get that sort of recognition. But I think having it in a musical or comedy category it's really misjudged, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think Kevin Smith talked about award stuff, and we do this talk every year now. We've been doing this podcast. We always talk about the awards and what the Academy is and all that. And Kevin Smith talks about how it's more how he always thinks they should do a genre category where because musical or comedy is such a limited range of things to where if it's not a drama, technically, we'll just put it in the musical or comedy category because they really wanted to get something. So I feel like they might give it to Get Out. What else is nominated for Best Musical or Comedy?
We've got Disaster Artist, The Greatest Showman, I, Tonya, and Lady Bird.
Are the reviews for Greatest Showman even out yet? I don't
no,
know.
but the press screeners will have gone out.
Okay.
And the Hollywood Foreign Press, who are the ones who present the nominees for the Golden Globes and pick the winners, they will have likely seen the film by now.
I am greatly looking forward to that movie, but I just don't know what it's like yet, so I can't comment.
I've heard some good things about it so far, but I don't think there's any proper reviews. But when the Oscars very first started in the late 20s, there were 2 Best Picture awards. There was Outstanding Picture, which is like the biggest epic production, like your Inceptions, The Martian, or The Revenant, or Hugo, or Gravity. And you also had like
Max.
Mad Max, and also Best Unique Artistic Picture, which would be like, say, I don't know, your Spotlight, Birdman. Moonlight, exactly. So I think we should bring a system like that back, so you don't have this weird segregation of drama and genre.
Best film and best production, and that's why because when Best Picture went to the producers and went to Get Up and Make It, when in reality, I feel like it should be the filmmakers actually, like the director, writer, and all those should get up and accept the award as a group, kind of like when you do best ensemble cast or whatever at the SAGs. Yeah, you're right. Best film, best production. It's kind of like how they also did for cinematography. It's just black and white and color, I believe, cinematography awards. Bandit's been very quiet because we've gone into the prestige film talk. He's over here just like, playing with my Marvel toys.
Where's the Disaster Artist? Where's The Room not nominated?
I just have absolutely no respect for like the Golden Globes or the Oscars or any of these pompous, pretentious Hollywood institutions that are devoted solely to them patting themselves on the back, and they're corrupt down to the very marrow of their bones anyway, so it doesn't mean anything. I don't understand how people can even watch the Oscars, watching a bunch of corrupt douchebags just go,
Bandit,
I'm good, you love me, you really love me. It's get over yourselves. This is
It's not inaccurate.
He's not wrong, but Bandit, you do watch Survivor, don't you?
Yeah, I do. It's at least that's different because that's a little bit like a sport. So if people are like, "Hey, I played a great game," it's like, "Yeah, you did," But it's like if we did a podcast and we just devoted it entirely to giving ourselves awards for things. Like people would be
don't we do a best of and worst of the year? Like we do.
But as in we give awards to ourselves.
Yeah. Oh.
I know, but that's exactly
the funniest
what
gag
stuff
goes
is.
to Trey.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's
I
the
get
biggest
that.
look at me ever. It's just
I tend to look at it far more romanticized. I looked at it as more as the best of the industry, but at the same time, there are award ceremonies out there where the people, not the ones making the films, the people get to vote for things, and that's how you get movies. That's how you get awards. Where Twilight wins everything for 5 years, and then The Hunger Games won everything for the next 4 years. So there is this weird line that you have to draw. Like, how do you recognize good cinema when people either don't care enough to watch the good cinema, or only a select number of people actually can vote? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like the Oscars, like the ratings for the Oscars are dropping every year because hopefully people are seeing what I see, that this is just a gigantic hand job for themselves, for all of Hollywood. And it's
part of me thinks that the viewing figures for the next Oscars will be quite big.
It's like they dissolve away all the good stuff about Hollywood, which is the actual filmmaking itself, and we're just left with all the ugly parts, which is the actors. Actors are horrible people. They're horrible, disgusting, depraved, broken
all right, so
people.
If any actors,
just disgusting, and I just want
if any actors listen are listening to this podcast,
they are.
I don't think you're terrible.
They're horrible people, but they need to be in order to be good actors because they have to draw on those experiences. That's why you get like the Robert Downey Juniors who've been through all this stuff, but they can draw on that in their acting.
It's amazing how he manages to find something every time we have him on the show, just to say something that we can never guess or picture what he's gonna say. So we usually get to oh god.
All right, let me just wrap it up. I'm just saying that I love movies, but I hate the whole Hollywood culture, and the Golden Globes and all this is really only about the Hollywood culture.
I think it's because of that culture there will be a lot of eyes on the Oscars next year after the whole Weinstein fiasco, because he was also like the most thanked person next to God at Academy Award acceptance speeches. Yeah. And also there will be will there be another Moonlight La La Land debacle like there was last year? People will be watching out in the same way people watch Formula One. Will there be a crash? I think that is going to be why there'll be a lot of people watching the Oscars next year. Like, are they going to be able to get out of this ugly PR hole that they've had over the past year? But one final awards note thing. Sorry, Bandit. But there's one more thing before I forget. For the Screen Actors Guild, which is the acting awards which are chosen by actors for actors, we have we've got Baby Driver for outstanding performance by a stunt ensemble, which I think is awesome. And also, Get Out is nominated for Best Male Actor for Daniel Kaluuya.
Yeah, he deserves it. Yeah,
and also outstanding performance by a cast in a motion picture, along with The Big Sick is also nominated for Best Ensemble Cast and Best Outstanding Female Actor in a Supporting Role for Holly Hunter, unless I'm missing them. So yeah, I guess like seeing films like, say, Get Out or The Big Sick be nominated, and also Baby Driver in these more niche, more specialized ceremonies. I think that's where you'll find a lot more credibility than, say, the Golden Globes, which are a big pompous ceremony put together by the press for ratings, in a way. So, Bandit, continue the rant.
No, I'm good.
Sorry to cut you off mid-flow.
Let's tell you what, guys.
That's why I was quiet during it, because I don't really care about all that.
Yeah,
but that's okay.
No, hey,
it's still I
agree with you on a lot of those fronts. You are not off in any way, shape, or form. Jesus, look at all these comments. Okay, sorry, I was just on the Facebook page, and there's like 50 of them. Okay, let's jump to
the movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say let's jump to the feature presentation.
Woo!
And now, our feature presentation.
Okay, folks, welcome to the feature presentation portion of the podcast, where we talk about the small independent film that got released this past week by the tiny independent startup known as Walt Disney and Lucasfilm. Is that the Empire I hear approaching from stage left? This is our spoiler-free talk of Star Wars The Last Jedi. If you want to skip straight to spoilers, we do have time codes in the description below, fingers crossed, hopefully. And let's talk non-spoilers at first. Just give a general overview of what we thought of the film in spoiler-free detail. So let's start with Bandit, since he's kind of the guest on the podcast this week. So Bandit, hey. you saw the movie dressed in a dressing gown and with a non-functioning lightsaber.
That's right, a broken lightsaber, which ironically fits with the movie in a certain way. Spoiler. No, I'm kidding.
Should have just thrown it over your shoulder and hit the guy behind you.
Yeah, that's right. I should have.
Anyway, non-spoilers.
Yeah, my overall, I left the movie very happy, but that I was sitting there for the first half of the movie, maybe 2/3 of the movie, thinking to myself, can we just get to the good stuff? And
really, I was the exact opposite.
But that last 1/3 really brought it home for me. But I was kind of like, I think it might have been one of those situations where the nostalgia of the old movies got in my way. Because, again, no spoilers, but whenever we cut away to what the new characters were doing, I was always just finding myself going, can we just get back to Luke? I just want to see Luke again. Can we just go back to Luke? So it wasn't until seeing it the second time that I was able to enjoy the other parts of it more. But as many reviews say, it is a mixed bag. There's some stuff that's really, really good, and some other stuff where you're like, why is that in there? And I'm sure we'll get into all of that. But overall, I really did enjoy it. It's certainly a step up from the last movie. And they do take the story in a new direction. They do actually take some chances with this one. It's not a remake, which is great. And they address certain issues with certain characters.
It feels like they do some rhyming with the themes. They don't just do the same story over again. It's almost like they actually somehow took George Lucas's advice and did some rhyming.
But they also they did some rhyming, but then they subvert your expectations, where you're like, oh, I've seen this moment before. This is supposed to happen, but then it goes the other way. So, overall, I was very happy with it. Trilby, what do you think?
Yeah, I've only seen it the once, whereas you two have seen it twice. I saw it with about 10 friends, and I was probably the most positive out of all of them. Some of them were quite disappointed with it, some of them were a bit bored, some were let down, some liked it, but I really dug the film. When I first saw it, I rated it above Force Awakens, but a bit below Rogue One. I'm that guy who gave Rogue One like a 9 out of 10 last year. Yep, I'm that guy. But over the course of the past couple of days, it's really stuck with me, and it's made me think just about the themes at play that it, because there's a lot of there's a few narrative and structural issues with the film, but in a way you can kind of forgive them because it's all in service of a thematic of a whole. It's stuff that you kind of have to maybe suspend your disbelief a bit in order to just accept what the film is trying to go for, and it's gonna throw a lot of people off guard because it subverts expectations while also kind of sticking to formula for for Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, and then just subverts them and changes them, and there's unexpected twists which completely threw me off guard. There's a few things that I know that Variety did a review that spoiled an aspect of the film, and I know that my enjoyment was significantly improved by not knowing what was in that review, because I read that review after I saw the film. But I really like the film. It stuck with me. I think it's Mark Hamill's best performance in live action. I think it's Mark Hamill's best performance of his whole career.
Really?
And the cast. I think so. I'm not gonna claim that I've seen every single Mark Hamill film, but it's easily best supporting actor worthy. I think he is terrific.
Glorious performance in this movie.
Yeah, yes. I think Carrie Fisher's great. Adam Driver, Daisy, the whole cast is terrific. Andy Serkis is just deliciously great as Snoke.
It's like I'm eating a nice chocolate bar every time he's on screen. He is so you thought he was it's like with Gollum. He's really so great. Fun to watch, and it looks real. It looks like Andy Serkis is there. He has that thing with his smile that I've seen him do in real life. It looks like Andy Serkis, and it's crazy.
Snoke did have a bit of a Gollum smile at certain moments.
He had I looked at him. I saw the guy from Prestige. I saw the assistant from Prestige every time Snoke was on screen. I just couldn't help it.
But and there's just some really great sequences. There's Jeremy Jahns. He said in his review that there's one shot that he'll have as his background or screensaver, and that you'll know it when you see it. That comment in retrospect has really confused me, because there's 5 or 6 of those shots.
Which there's at least 18 of those.
In his non-spoiler review, he doesn't say what it is. Maybe he's done a spoiler one, so maybe he clarifies. But there's 5 or 6 amazing shots.
I've seen it, and he doesn't.
Okay, I might have to message him.
I think I know which one it is. I think it's when there's a certain showdown at the end, and you have 2 characters on either side.
But it could have been
the screen, that'd be a good screen. I think.
But it could have been a damaged spaceship, which is an amazing shot.
It could also be a certain. Actually, it's probably a damaged spaceship. But it could also be a certain scene on a cliff. I'll be honest with you, I don't know which scene he's talking about.
But it just shows that
scenes on cliff.
But it just shows that Rian Johnson and cinematographer Steve Yedlin, who worked on Rian Johnson's other films, Looper and Brick, they showed up to play. They showed up to knock it out of the park here. It's got some of the most stunning tableaus in the entire franchise's history, and even the prequels, which narratively in almost every creative department are not that good, but they were still great looking films. And Last Jedi,
that lava fight is beautiful.
But in terms of shot composition and lighting and just great, it's so unlike Star Wars in a way that it's shot and presented, but it still holds true to the franchise template and is still able to just bring that nostalgic wave over, just a greatly selected music choice or a character beat, and you're back home again, but it's not the way you remembered it. If The Force Awakens was Star Wars, a Star Wars movie for fans, this one is a Star Wars movie for people who are growing up in a way. It goes in darker directions, and it challenges you in a way. It challenges your own perceptions of being a fan and what a Star Wars movie even can be, and I think that is a point in its favour. But Trey, what did you think, non-spoilery?
Actually, could I just jump in for you? To sort of add what you were saying with visually as well.
I do kid.
But sort of add to what you were saying about visually, as well, apart from how well it's shot, visual effects, for all of you pro puppet anti CG fans out there, you'll be happy. There's lots of puppets.
Oh, Jesus.
And they don't look bad.
Puppets in the movie?
There's plenty of puppets, so you'll love the puppets as well.
It's
one
got the
puppet.
best puppets I've seen since
There's
Puppet
one
Master
puppet where I
4.
was like, that looks wrong somehow. But we'll talk about that in spoilers. Okay. So here's what I will say, because I don't love this movie. And when the movie ended, I turned to my friend who was just like in tears. He was so happy. People were cheering and clapping for like a minute after the credits started to roll. And I was just like, I didn't love that. But I think I realize now that I respect this movie far more than I think I actually enjoyed it. And I'm so happy that we have gotten something that feels like a genuine filmmaker got to play in the Star Wars universe. Because, like, I love The Force Awakens, and I think it's a great return to the franchise, and it's a nice love letter to what Star Wars was. But this feels like the genuine continuation, like an expanded universe story of what we got from Episode 6. And this movie does not care about Star Wars fans at all. And I love that. I love that Rian Johnson just said, no, we don't care what kind of theories you have. We don't care what you think you know about the Star Wars universe, what you think you're the expert in. We are here to do what Star Wars is, and that is tell a cinematic story. We are here to tell you a movie, and you're going to watch a movie that has genuine stakes and characters. And I loved all of that. However, for every risk they did take, I was not a fan of some of the risks they took. It's like for every four things they did, there was one thing where I was like, no. It was like they did 3 great things, and then they did nothing where I was like, no, I'm not sure how I feel about that. So in retrospect, I think I liked like 75% of the movie. Henceforth, it got a 7.5 out of 10, and people did not like that. People were not a fan of that. Especially, like, I got to school the next day and, like, did you like it? I was like, yeah, I did. People were like, did you love it? I was like, no. But at the same time, it is growing on me in that I want to see more movies like this from Star Wars. I want to see movies like this from Disney in general. I need to see more of a movie that is more like this. This feels like almost like when I saw Winter Soldier, I was like, I didn't love that, but it felt different enough that I can respect what we just got.
Yeah.
And like Trilby said, it is...
That's a good comparison. It kind of was like the Winter Soldier of Star Wars in a way, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's gorgeous. And it's just, I mean, I know we were talking about how awards don't mean anything, but come on, guys. Like I watching a second time, the editing in this movie is like masterclass. I'm not just talking about the match cuts where it goes from one thing to the next, just the way it'll cut away to things and the montages, and then the cinematography is gorgeous, shot on film. It was so, Chili knows what that means. It was so just glorious to look at. And I could take like 18 different shots from this movie and put them on my wall, and I might make them my new background. It's like this in Blade Runner from those beautiful films I've seen this year. It's like they knew Deakins was coming out with something, and they're like, all right, we got to try to match Deakins. It was gorgeous. The music I thought was fantastic. While there wasn't a lot of new themes, what little new themes they did have, I wasn't necessarily a fan of. The way they kind of compiled all of the classic Star Wars music into this, and at first I was getting annoyed because they kept using the Force theme so much, but I realized why they use it so much. It's because the Force theme really does symbolize what this movie is about, and that is about like almost like rebirth in a sense. It's called The Last Jedi because this movie is really about essentially redefining what we all think Star Wars is. And I tweeted out, I was like, where's this movie going to go from here? I think it's because Rian Johnson really wanted to say, you know what? We're just going to destroy everything. A lot like Winter Soldier. Shield, Hydra, it all goes. We're just going to get rid of it. We're going to do something completely different.
Or
and
you know what? Maybe it's because Rian Johnson knows J.J. Abrams going to do the next one. And because J.J. Abrams did the first one, Rian Johnson is like, okay, J.J., you left all these loose ends that I have to somehow tie up, while at the same time not getting bested by the internet. So if you're going to leave me with this mess to clean up, I'm going to leave you with a mess to clean up when you come to do the last one. This movie wraps it. There's so much resolution in this movie where I'm just like, where is episode 9? Because there are things that they do in this movie where I'm like, I thought that was going to happen. Okay, yeah, sure, all right, absolutely. But at the same time, I loved the fact that I did not know what was going to happen next. There were certain points where I was like, and this is where we end the movie, and it kept going, but I was okay with it. However, the film's final like 30 seconds, I'm like, that doesn't need to be there. Let's just get rid of that.
Oh, I completely disagree.
I was
we will go spoilers.
I was so angry because this was almost abuse.
Well,
let's give it our ratings and then we'll jump into spoilers.
Yeah.
Because I have a feeling all the positive stuff will be in the non-spoiler section, and the spoiler section is when we'll just rip this movie apart.
I think just one more note before we get to the scores is that I can't remember which episode we joked about this, Trey, but it was this idea that directors would just send each other passive-aggressive notes via telegram. And I'm just thinking that what happens is that Rian Johnson, he finishes The Last Jedi, he puts a rough cut of it on a Blu-ray or a USB stick or whatever, and then while JJ's writing episode 9 in his office, it's like, letter for you, Abrams, and then he opens it, and it's a telegram for Abrams, and then he opens it, and it's got a USB stick and a note that says, your move, bitch, signed Rian Johnson.
It's just like, na boo boo. It's just instead of a long time ago, it's like game on.
He puts the USB in his laptop.
JJ like shakes his fist at the sky and he's like, Ryan!
He puts the USB in his laptop.
Him,
and then he puts the USB in his laptop, and then Mark Hamill comes up on the screen and says, "This is not going to go the way you think."
Like it does, like there's a certain thing that happens in episode 8 where you're just like, oh snap! Like essentially, like just like whatever happens with that one character is Rian Johnson, and that other character, we all know what I'm talking about here, is like J.J. Abrams, and it works so beautifully. Oh god! All right, let's jump into spoilers. Bandit, what would you give it out of 10?
I'd give it probably a solid 8 out of 10.
Okay, all right. What about you, Trilby?
When I first saw it, I was thinking 8. Now I'm thinking 9 on reflection.
And I stick with despite me really enjoying a lot of it, I'm going to stick with my 7.5, just because I really can't agree with some of the choices they make. But yeah, let's jump into spoilers. 3, 2, spoilers.
Wow!
Admiral Akbar dies. Oh no!
All right, so
that hurt me.
So let's talk about.
He dies off screen. He doesn't even get a little space funeral where they put his body in a capsule or something.
So I'm loving literally everything this movie's doing so far.
Hey, we're not glossing over Akbar's death.
And then they kill Akbar, and then I gave it a 7.5 out of 10.
I'm loving everything, right? I'm just sitting here, just engrossing. I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, Rian Johnson is doing this. Because I think at this point in time, we've already gotten the scene where Luke gets Rey's lightsaber and throws it over the ledge, and I applauded so loudly. I was like, beautiful. That's exactly what needed to happen. And this movie's continuing to go. Kylo Ren's attacking the ship. He doesn't shoot Leia, and then the TIE fighter shoot Leia, but he wasn't strong enough to do it. I'm like, wow, that's a really awesome and bold character choice. And then Leia's hand starts to twitch, and I'm just thinking to myself, no. And then she floats gracefully back into the rebel ship and comes back to life. And I'm just thinking to myself, no, I'm not okay with this.
Explain that to me, because I don't get why people have a problem with that. Everyone, I'm like, well, she's force sensitive. She's a Skywalker. She's been sensing things throughout both the movies. I don't get why everyone has a problem with that.
It makes sense. It's just really stupid. It's like when you watch Interstellar and they talk about the fifth dimensional beings that made a wormhole and planted it so that past humans can find it. They explain it fine, and it makes sense in the terms of the universe you've established. It's just really dumb, and it just takes away whatever any kind of stakes that I think anyone with the Force can have. Because it's almost like when. If Rey were to die in episode 9, I'm like, well, can't she just come back using the Force? And it's almost it's almost universe breaking in that sense, in that you've now established a cure for death, and that really didn't.
Well, it's not a cure for death. It's just they can preserve themselves a little bit longer.
Okay.
I think in terms of the logic of the story and the logistics, I have no issue with it. I just think, considering that the actress who had a near-death experience on screen actually died last December. Yeah. It's kind of a weird plot point to leave in to kind of play with the audience.
Yeah,
I just that was my only real issue with that moment. But I think maybe the Force gave her an airtight barrier to protect.
It was also Like, maybe if, like, she started, like, moving her hand and maybe, like, they notice that she's, like, still alive and maybe they come and get her there. But she, like, floats back with her eyes open. The Leia theme starts playing really loudly. And it's almost like Mary Poppins, or, like, it was really graceful. Like, she was flying away like Superman. And it just kind of, it made me chuckle as well.
I await the Photoshop where she has an umbrella in her hand.
The memes are going to love that one.
Would you prefer something like she gets sucked out and she's semi-unconscious, but she's like put a bubble around her, and you can see sort of a bubble around her, and they're like, "Oh my god, she's still alive! Quick, go get her!"
Maybe like a collection of like space dust, like a collection of like a form of little space dust forms around her, and like maybe I don't know, something like that.
The space debris sort of bounces, like from the space debris like bouncing off her. You can see there's a bubble. So
or maybe like
something more dignified like that. And
maybe someone just notices she's alive, because the characters literally turn to the camera and it's like, excuse me? Like, the characters themselves are concerned that this is happening in their universe. And I can't... And no one really comments on the fact that, like, yeah, she's alive after being floating in space and then being shot into space, because so many other characters get shot in the space. Granted, none of them have the Force. But I'm just like, what? It really took me so out of the moment. Yeah. Every time I saw her, now I'm like, so is she, like, never going to die? Or what's going to happen here?
Well, I suppose also, though, like, if she doesn't have as much force power as Luke, maybe Luke could only teach her a few basic things. Like, I suppose that'd be one of the key things you'd want to teach her, because, I mean, she's that's very likely with all the space battles they're in, she could end up in space at some point.
Maybe
she could have just had a line of like, "Yep, my brother taught me that," or something like that.
It didn't detract the movie as much as other things, but it definitely pulled me out like, this is dumb. Even for a movie about space wizards, this is dumb.
Yeah, like I said, it didn't affect me at all, but I can understand that it's more like the way it's shot and composed and the music, it's more like a fairy tale moment in what is, in the context of the scene and the scenario, it's very much like an epic space war film at that moment. And then it pivots to become a like fairy tale like tableau.
This is my Dark Knight Rises moment of like, that's not how spine works. Like, that's not how that's supposed. No,
that's not how the Force works.
Honestly, though, I thought back to that clip of in Force Awakens. Like, that's not all right. Whatever, sure,
well,
okay.
I think on second viewing of this as well, like there were certain things that pulled me out of it. Like the first time I watched, but the second time I watched it, or like even within the context of the movie, I was like, oh, okay, that did make sense. Like first time I watched it. And, like, at the beginning of the movie, there's that Asian girl who has that very dramatic death scene. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching, and I'm going, who the hell is that?
I knew there was an Asian chick in the cast.
Why is she getting such a dramatic death? And then, of course, it's because linked to the sister later on. But I was still like, okay, that's kind of weird.
Even if it didn't link to
the first time you watched it, I was like,
I think it worked.
Yeah, set up some payoff.
There's certain things that seem stupid, but then there's a reason. Like later on, I'm like, why do they have all these stupid crystal animals running around? But then there's a reason, because they do sort of, they show them the way out. So it's like, I was okay with the universe building there, because like, I mean, even when Ray's on Octo, you see that little fish tail in the background that never comes back later, and it's just like, it's just something that adds to the universe.
That's such a cool shot.
It continued the problem that Force Awakens made, in that it didn't set the stage of what the state of the universe is. You remember that with Force Awakens, like we had big conversation about this, is it didn't fill in the gaps enough between what happened with Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens. You assume there's a New Republic out there. It's never really explained. With this, they continued that. Like the movie starts, in the opening crawl, it says, First Order has taken over the galaxy, and you're like, how?
Why wasn't the first line? Why wasn't the first line of that crawl? Luke Skywalker has been found. By the way, how cool would that have been? That'd have been great.
But it's like, how did the First Order? Like they had one base at the end of the movie that exploded. Presumably some smaller bases elsewhere, and they've gone from that to completely overthrowing the government that runs like 90% of the universe. I was like, how the hell did they do that? Especially after
the opening crawl stuff. The opening crawl does say, I'm assuming it was in response to what happened in the Force Awakens when they destroyed those 3 planets at the same time with the Starkiller base. Yeah. Them destroying those planets has kind of created like a big like gap in terms of like the resistance force, and they have been able to use that gap to sort of gain more prominence. I'm guessing that's what the opening crawl was alluding to.
That's what I assume as well. I assume those 5 planets they blew up were like the core worlds through which the whole Republic is governed, and once you take that down, everything just kind of falls apart.
It'll be kind of like if you destroyed the White House, the Pentagon, MI5, the FBI, and the CIS at the same time.
Yeah, things will fall apart very quickly. But it's like... still... There's the New Republic is presumably made up of more than just 5 planets, and there's, apart from Leia, I'm sure there's plenty other people that can rally what's left of the universe and say, these guys just blew up hundreds of millions, billions of people. We have to take them out, and they're vulnerable now. Let's go get them.
I'll be completely honest. I think it's because Disney.
Happens.
I think it's because Disney wants to stay away from the politics. And I really do think that's just a response to.
But it's a war.
They're still a little iffy about.
I actually thought this film was quite political.
Well, I thought it was political in some of its theming, but I thought in terms of the whole what about the Republic? I'll be honest, I don't care about the New Republic, and so I just thought,
because the movie itself takes takes lots of jabs at the old Republic and how crap that is. What about how crap the New Republic was? We never even saw it. And it couldn't even handle 5 puny planets being blown up.
That's kind of the point, isn't it? Is that
the old Republic could have survived more than that? It did survive more than that.
Yeah, and it was its hubris that was its ultimate destruction, according to Luke Skywalker, which was great, by the way.
Yeah,
the whole discussion of on how what heroes really are, and there are so many good things this movie does. So I have to ask everybody, why is it that every 15 or so minutes we would cut back to the stupid Finn stuff? All right, so for those of you who haven't seen the movie and don't care about spoilers, I respect you. First of all, second of all, for as you guys may know, Finn and this main character Rose, who's awful, by the way, Kelly Marie Tran. She's a nice girl, I'm sure, but my gosh, she's awful.
Why didn't she just die at the end? I don't know. What, they couldn't even kill a side character of a side character. Kill her.
The actress that played her sister was far better than her.
Yeah.
I was like, why couldn't they cast her as Rose? I
guess they wanted the extra points of having a fat chick. Oh,
no, all right.
You got to go through the diversity list and get everything, You
know what? You're right.
I'm surprised you went with fat chick and not Asian American woman.
Well, her sister was Asian American. Her sister.
No, but as a leading role, she's the first Asian American woman to have a lead role in Star Wars.
That's true, yeah. But
And also,
I
maybe
want to see more Asian Americans involved. So.
I'll be honest with you, I don't care. She could be a white chick for all I care. She's still awful. The actress themselves.
Awful,
but so they're like, oh, the First Order is tracking us through hyperspace. I'm like, okay, that's a new thing that I've never really worried about in Star Wars. Okay, how are they going to solve this? Like, oh, we have to disable their tracker. I'm like, okay, how are we going to do that? We need a code breaker. Okay, I'm like, this feels a little video gamey. And then out of nowhere, let's call Maz Kanata. How? Who cares? How does Poe know her? Doesn't matter. Anyways, Maz Kanata's just like, all right, so now let's go. You have to go find this code breaker on this other planet in the Outer Rim. Right? Wasn't it the planet in the Outer Rim? Or was I thinking about that wrong? And so they have to go all the way to the Outer Rim of the universe, and they have to find this magic code breaker, come all the way back to where they just were.
In 6 hours. They specified they'll run out of fuel in 6 hours. All of that has to happen in 6 hours.
I heard it was 16 hours.
It was 16, and then towards the end of this, they've got 6 hours.
Which, by the way, begs the question: Ray did all of this. Ray did all this in 24 hours.
Okay,
exactly. That's the problem. Unless the film doesn't. Sorry, go on.
Well, the film's not explicit, but I think what it is that Rey's storyline, until she gets onto the Star Destroyer at the end to confront Snoke and Kylo Ren, I think her story is taking place maybe a day or at least a few hours before the film proper actually starts. I don't think it's a fully linear story. I think until she gets onto the Star Destroyer, her story is a few hours or maybe a day before the rest of the film.
Yeah. What could potentially be happening is that since this is essentially a direct continuation, as Rey's traveling to go find Luke, all this stuff with the First Order and the Resistance could be happening right now. And so by the time she reaches Luke and hands him the lightsaber, we could be entering that side plot. I don't know. Yeah. And plus, the planet had 2 suns, so for all we know, the day cycles could be incredibly short. So we don't know how long 2 days actually is on that planet.
Or they could be doing some clever science stuff of the further distance the further distance you travel in space, time actually slows down.
It could be like the Sanctum Sanctorum, where it's
around,
like,
they could be jumping.
This force-sensitive island and time runs slower or whatever. Like you put in your what it should be.
But it's like. Okay, so they're spending 16 hours trying to keep out of range of these Star Destroyers. So putting aside the fact that they had like 15 First Order ships and they could have just had 5 of them to like light speed ahead just a little bit. And
ahead of them? Oh my god.
Turned around
so
and catch
glaring.
them, and then you could have Akbar say, it's a trap all over again. But like, instead of that, they could have just had them land on the salty red planet earlier and just have the First Order like, we don't know where they are on the planet, but we're scanning. That way you could pretend like it happened a couple of days or something.
Yeah,
rather than them just flying in space for
the time thing doesn't bother me as much as the actual storyline that we were just talking about. The time thing I can get past. I mean, because how long was Luke actually training with Yoda? We know that's just a movie thing in general, movie time versus actual time. But like, okay, so
but I think the entire subplot where they go onto the casino planet and rescue those animals. With the ending of the film, thematically it works, and I kind of forgive it. But you could have condensed that significantly. You could lose about 10 to 15 minutes from that subplot.
You can lay the whole film out in Premiere and Control X and Control V, like just get rid of everything. You could literally clip that stuff out of the movie and sync it all back up, and it would work completely fine, except to be a half hour shorter. Like that doesn't need to be there in the slightest.
You know how? Because here's the thing: is like they leave and go find the hacker to get them through the Imperial shields. But I was like, don't the Resistance have their own hackers? I mean, this entire organization is built to fight the First Order. You don't have one computer guy,
because you don't understand, Bennett, because the plant lady,
whole fleet. There's not one guy who's like, you know what? I specialize in hacking First Order systems. Kind of makes sense that you would have that if you're a Resistance.
No
wonder that
you don't get it. Because the plant lady from Jurassic Park has to not trust Poe Dameron for some reason and has to not tell anybody their plan because movie conflict.
The purple-haired SJW needs to show up the straight-up male who might actually be gay and Latino. We don't know.
I was going to say, isn't Poe Dameron Latino? I like
Oscar Isaacs. You can't really tell with Oscar Isaacs. He could be anything. He's one of those
I believe he's Colombian, but don't quote me on that. But but
it's like, why don't they have hackers? Like, you need someone to hack First Order systems if you're fighting the First Order. Like, you could just have a Sean Penn style hacker character off to the side, but they're all like, how are we going to hack in? And then that side character is like, actually, I have this crazy theory of how to get in. They're like, oh, whatever, you're a crazy guy. And he's like, no, trust me, I can do it. That's all you need. Then you can cut out half an hour on the
just
casino.
Be the hacker? Why not just make the Asian chick the hacker? I don't understand.
Yeah, and then you could cut out the whole casino and instead spend that time on Luke actually teaching Rey about the Force.
Well, I have a feeling that if they also made Rose the hacker, then the internet would be like, she's a hacker and she's a mechanic. She's such a Mary Sue. Why does she do everything?
Well, just make her a hacker, not a mechanic.
Yeah, I was just say, just make her someone that works in the computers, and they can make the computers happen to be next to the escape pods, and bada bing, bada boom, you have, you know what I mean?
But
like,
actually,
or maybe, yeah.
Well, actually, that'd be kind of racist to assume that someone who's Asian is good at hacking computers. So no, we couldn't have that.
Just like assuming someone who's Asian can be very good at building things. You know what I mean? Like, see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you need to be good at engineering. So,
and with the whole thing where they free all those animals, they free all the animals in the casino. They don't free the little kids who are slaves. They leave them. They
don't free the animals. They're going to retrack down those animals. They're following them up
again, and they're also going to punish those kids who let the animals out. So I was like, they're following the Qui-Gon Jinn tradition of not freeing child slaves, even though they could.
No, you don't understand, Bad, because that kid needs to move the mop at the end and save the day.
That's right.
Wow, what a terrible... That might be the worst Star Wars ending to any movie, like any of the Star Wars movies ever. Like, it's
great. Who's that kid?
It's awful. I don't care. I think the point is that it's like, oh, heroes can come from anywhere, like Rey or Anakin. I get what they're trying to go for, but once again, it's really dumb. And
it's for not dying.
But that's what you. But like, okay, so in my perfect world, you end the movie on Luke's death. You end it there. You could have ended the movie there, and it would have worked just fine. You know, like you could, if you want to have the scene where Rey looks at Kylo one last time and shuts the door, fine. But you should end the movie where Luke fades out and looking at the twin suns, the music's there, and then you just cut to credits. I don't know why you just don't end it there. There's so many different places you could end this movie, and they didn't.
I think it's the whole subplot. I think, like I said, it could be really condensed, especially that it's mainly trying to demonstrate, in the Star Wars universe, animal cruelty is bad and the military-industrial complex is complex. But that feels like something that should have its own Star Wars story type spin-off thing dedicated to it, as opposed to just it being sandwiched in there. I kind of admire the themes being in there, but if they're just there as window dressing and not actually going to be discussed in the universe, there's kind of no point, which is why I think you can really condense the story. But I disagree with the subplot kind of not going anywhere, because I still think it's a subversion on, this plan doesn't work, it fails, it backfires, they get kidnapped, which I think is just a terrific, pulling the rug out from under the audiance. I think that's really well done.
Did we think it was going to work, though? Because,
because every other plan like this in Star Wars has worked.
But, Phasma's not in the movie yet, and we know she's going to show up because she's in the trailer. So, is it going to work, though? It's do we think it's going to really work? Yeah, it's also the second movie in the trilogy, so we know something bad's going to have to happen.
Yeah, but maybe it can work, but they maybe don't escape the Star Destroyer. There's many ways that Phasma can still enter the plot after they've potentially deactivated the tracker.
Yeah, and it's also pretty clear that cracker guy is just going to betray them as soon as he needs to.
Did Benicio del Toro know he was being filmed, by the way? Did he know he was on camera? Did he just walk on the set? Just
he walks on the set with a pair of boots around his shoulders.
That's just how he woke up.
That is just his fashion.
I did find the relationship he had with BB-8 oddly compelling, though. I could watch a whole movie of just those two, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah. I love evil BB-8.
Really? I thought it was. It did nothing for me.
I just thought it was funny how that robot was the smartest thing on that Star Destroyer.
You know what? You are right. It was that evil BB-8 that somehow was able to get everything, have everything fall apart, and cause the death of thousands of people.
BB-8 he took out 20 guards or something.
Some coins.
And then controls one of those Imperial walkers. Or First Order walkers.
That was so stupid. It felt like Return of the Jedi. I hated that so much.
Yeah, I think, I agree that Finn taking down Captain Phasma and then them escaping the spaceship, you probably could have lost that whole thing.
That whole thing, and the CG was on. Their whole story felt like something out of the prequels, man. I'm telling you.
Totally, it didn't work either. As BB-8's controlling this walker that's walking awkwardly towards the spaceship, and she's like, "Go get in!" It's like, no.
It's like some of the worst writing period ever in Star Wars is in that subplot. What is that thing he said? Let's go, Chrome Dome. I'm Rebel Scum. Hey, you need a lift.
I did like the Rebel Scum line. I did like that.
That was actually a good line, yeah.
I sunk in my seat. It was
Rebel Scum.
No, they were so proud of themselves. They're like, oh, this is going to be great. People, I thought they were expecting claps in the theater. People groaned in my cinema. People hated that. That whole thing just took everything.
The Finn and the Rose storyline is important because it leads to one of the most awkward kisses in Star Wars history, where Rose kisses Finn and he completely does not kiss her back.
So I thought they were going to do a thing where the only main character that died was going to be the black guy, which I was completely fine with, because Finn
I would have been fine with him dying then.
Finn has nothing else to do except sacrifice himself. I'm like, yeah, go ahead and kill Finn. It was a great end to his story, sure.
Especially after beating Phasma.
And then this chick saves him, and it's like, you think she dies, and then he goes and finds Rey and hugs her. Like, well, I guess the agency doesn't matter anymore. Like, Rose who?
But then she's alive. She's alive in the Millennium Falcon. I was like, what?
Okay, because I didn't spot her, so maybe I just missed it. But I wasn't sure if she did survive that.
It was a whole scene. He puts her body and covers up the wing. That's when we find out that Rey saws the books and everything.
Oh, okay.
It's all right. I didn't see it. I didn't notice it the first time either. It was on the second time I saw she's still there in the Falcon. I was like, hang on, she's alive? Yeah. I was like, why did he kill her?
Puts a coat over her, and Rey looks over at, and that's when Rey meets Poe Dameron, and I'm like, no, Poe's Finn's boy. You leave him alone, Rey.
Yes, I probably didn't notice that because as an SJW, I don't see color.
So, you're right. It was all just one giant white screen.
I couldn't resist. But I actually kind of liked how they acknowledged that. Yeah, Poe and Rey haven't met yet.
I did like that line. Like, I'm Rey. Like, I know. Like, I thought that was great. It also helped continue the theme of heroes are just people. There are so many good things in this movie. Once again, I just keep getting bogged down by the things that don't make any sense.
But here's the thing. What you will about. Here's the problem with, I think, so both Poe and Finn is their characters. is I still don't feel like I really know them. Like,
Okay.
and I'm sorry to keep going back to the original trilogy, because I know we're supposed to let the past die. We're supposed to kill it if we have to. That's what the movie wants us to do. Forget that the originals ever existed and just kill them. Well, sorry, but no, they're good. But like with Luke, by the end of the first movie, you've got a really good sense of who this kid is. Like, he's a good-hearted farm boy, and he's very loyal to his friends. That carries all the way through. Like, you know who he is. I don't really know who Finn is. I was like,
Okay.
like who exactly is he? Okay, so he runs away from the First Order. He's thirsty for Rey, and he kind of does still want to run away from the Resistance. But then in the end, he's like, "No, I'm rebel scum." But you already settled that in your mind in the last movie anyway. So are we just repeating the same? Like, what is he about, and what is Poe about? Okay, I know he's a pilot. He likes blowing stuff up, and he's very attached to his ball droid.
It's like his dog. I thought that was really sweet by the way. And he's like, "Where's my droid?" I thought that was a very sweet moment. I liked that they expanded foes. I thought they that's you ship them. Hashtag Storm Pilot. No, I liked that they expanded Poe's character a lot. I liked that he wasn't just Han Solo. But he was this kind of naive. Because at first you're watching a movie and you think the naive character is going to be Rey, because it's the second movie in the trilogy. But in many ways, it was Poe, and he paid the price for it. And I love the arc of he has to become the leader, and he has to learn that lesson. And in circumstances, they're a little dumb with the whole not telling him the plan and everything. But I do think that it was nice that in the end, Leia was able to continue on and teach and show that Leia was a good leader in that she taught Poe to become a better leader as well. In terms of Finn, I think he's almost a complete character. I liked him more in The Force Awakens. He's just really charismatic. He's really fun to watch.
Yeah, I think John Boyega brings a lot more than the page would imply.
In The Force
than the screenplay would.
I thought as awkward as that.
Do you really think so?
Yeah.
John Boyega, or at that point?
Yeah, I don't. I know. Look, a lot of my friends liked him, but I don't think he's charismatic at all. I think he's just a dude. He's just kind of a dude just walking around going,
Oh, God.
And it's a racist.
"Hey,
All right,
dude,
well,
he's
I was
not race specific." But I
Hey,
mean,
Trey,
he's
let's
just
not
kind
forget. Trey, you watched the Black Panther trailer, and your favorite thing was the two white guys.
That's true. I watched it Black Panther. I'm like, ooh, Martin Freeman. Ooh, Andy Serkis.
Martin Freeman, Andy Serkis. Ooh.
He's just a dude, just kind of walking around the galaxy doing stuff. It's like he doesn't have
the whole theme
he
of
doesn't
this
have
movie,
a
isn't it?
purpose. You need a purpose in a movie. Like Rey has a purpose. Like Luke had a purpose.
He
Like
definitely
Finn
got the
and
most.
Poe, none of them have purpose. Like
Yeah.
even Han Solo, Leia, they all had a purpose. What's his purpose?
I thought in terms of the story,
start
he
dating
definitely
Rey, I
got
guess.
shafted.
That's his
most.
purpose.
Yes.
What's
I thought
Poe's
he got
purpose?
shafted
To blow
most,
stuff up?
but Poe had an arc. Poe had a story that I think worked well and connected with Leia. In terms of Finn, I can't do anything for you with Finn. But I thought Poe had a story arc.
Yeah, in Force Awakens, Poe is like a deliberately arch character where he's the archetypal hotshot flyboy who's really talented, who just goes into situations and is the hero. And they kind of put that on its head in The Last Jedi, because it's one reason I actually did really like the sacrifice of the bomber, of that of Rose's sister in the ship. With, like, even if it was revealed that it wasn't her sister, I would have been fine with that scene, because it kind of cements that this is a person who's struggling to drop these bombs, and then it also it ties into Leia looking at the screen with all the destroyed bombers and the people they've lost in the.
Here's a testament to the character and the direction of Rian Johnson, because I felt so much emotion and stakes for her in that scene than I did for any of the cast of Rogue One. I was so in it for that.
Why do you hate Rogue One so much?
I don't hate Rogue One. I just don't think it has any dramatic stakes to it, which is weird because I felt so much stakes with that character and with what was his name, Paige or whatever. I felt so much there's so much terror and fear for this poor girl just trying to get this bloody remote so she can blow up and sacrifice herself. And I got emotional the second time I watched it. It's such a good scene, as opposed to Rogue One where it's like, oh no, he died. Well,
as for Finn, I would have been fine with him like dying when trying to destroy that Death Star laser on the salt planets, because I think after killing Captain Phasma and rising above the First Order after that, so, like literally rising above them, there's not much more left for his character to do. So I would have been happy with him dying then. So let's see what happens in Episode 9. But
I would have been fine with him as well, because then I would have felt like that was his purpose.
Yeah.
His purpose was to take down the First Order that stole his life when he was from childhood on. I would have been like, that would.
I think it would have been even better if he went into it and it didn't work. I thought that would have been fantastic if like he tried to destroy it and thinking that he could do it by himself, and he was not able to learn the lesson that Poe had to learn, and it ended up killing him. I thought that would have been a great kind of.
God, I would have cried.
It would have been fantastic. Oh, well, thank you, Sherman White storyteller. I thought it would have been a really.
But that would have been okay because this is like the Empire Strikes Back of it, so it's supposed to be tragic. But it's like
that's your one Empire.
Ro smashes him out the way, and he's like, "I saved your life," and in the background, the door like explodes, and it's like,
that's what I'm saying.
You just killed everyone in that base.
It's literally, you really ruined everyone's chances. Had Luke not gone out there, she would have caused the death of Leia and everybody else.
It's like, why did you do that? And she's like, it's okay. I read ahead in the script. I know it's going to be all right. It's like,
Luke's in the back right now. He told me, isn't he fine?
Yeah, I think this is kind of the opposite of the whole Princess Leia floating thing for me. Like, it works like thematically because it ties in with it. Like, what she says? She says that we don't win by killing what we hate. We do it by saving what we love.
Oh, and I think when she spurted the theme of the movie. Yeah, I hate movies.
Very on the nose.
Nolan loves that all the time.
But logistically, it was like, did you happen to know what was going to happen in the script? Like, I feel like Mr. Plinkett's like, did you read the script? Oh, what's that over there? Is that the script? Is that a script in her spaceship?
What's that on the ground over there? Is that the script? Hey, let me ask you Sorry, go on. Finish your thought.
I was just going to say, it's what I was saying earlier in the non-spoiler section. I kind of forgive it while acknowledging that it is flawed because it kind of works to a greater theme. It's like the subplot, I think you can completely trim and condense that and maybe hit some of the major beats in the story and maybe just touch upon the themes of the military-industrial complex and the animal cruelty and stuff and just expand the Star Wars universe in a much more condensed way because it still ties to the idea of hope and what it means to really be a hero, which is the lesson that Poe has to learn. But it is still a bit heavy-handed, but I kind of forgive it because it works thematically. I'm a theme type of guy. It's why I liked Rogue One a lot.
It does work thematically, which, segue, is why I actually kind of liked that Rey's parents were nobody.
Oh, God, yes! So beautiful.
Yes. In a way, it couldn't have been anything else, because I've been saying this for ages, that in The Force Awakens, the whole thing that Rey has to... Her entire arc for that film is to forget about the past and move on, look forward. It's what Maz Kanata says to her, because she says that you know deep in your heart they're never coming back. You have a future with Luke, or words to that effect. So if it had been somebody, like, it couldn't have been anyone of note or anyone in particular, but fans are kind of pissed off about that, because they were just nobody, but it was
the setup for the tragedy, like the tragedy of Empire Strikes Back is that so much bad happens to these heroes and we just end it there. But the tragedy of the situation between Kylo and Rey was set up so beautifully in all those conversations they had. And I think it really comes to a head when he's like, you know, just let your parents say it. They were nothing. You're nothing. And you're like, well, that's me. And he's like, but not to me. And my heart melted. My cold, empty black heart. It's not because I'm black, but like it's like coal. Like just melted. I was like, that's so sweet. And I was so on board for Kylo and Rey to be a thing. I don't know why. Call me a teenager. I was so ready for this to like be a
Kylo Rey.
Yes, yes, Kylo Ren. That's a nice ship name. It was so well done. And then when she's like, Ben, don't do this. I'm like, no, Rey, please just take his hand. Rule the galaxy. Please do it. I was so on board with them just to rule the galaxy together. And yet they can't because that's the tragedy of the story.
And I also like that, them saying that her parents were really nobodies, that's the only answer they could give that's unexpected. Because the internet has guessed every other possible theory there could ever be. I
had friends on Friday when I saw it that didn't care, and they're like, so who are Rey's parents? And I was like, I can't tell you. And they were just like, and they guessed, they were like, Sidious, Obi-Wan. They guessed everything. I was like, wrong, you're all wrong. And they were like, who are they? I'm like, they're nobody. And they're like, what, seriously? I was like, yeah, but it works.
Yes, like they abandoned her, they sold her for drug money or something. I don't know.
It's so perfect. They were nobodies that sold her for drinking money. That's beautiful.
And in terms of theme, it indicates that we're moving away from this idea that everyone who's good in the Force has to be a Skywalker. That, no, the Force is open to anyone, which links with that kid at the end with the broom. Even though that was kind of cringy, it does fit thematically with that idea. Which is what it
makes sense.
The Force should always be
really dumb.
Like, you don't have to, like, it gets away from midichlorians back to just the Force is like, if you're a good person, the Force might, kind of like Green Lantern's ring, it'll give you powers.
Yeah, you know? Anakin Skywalker was a nobody. Yeah, Anakin Skywalker was a nobody back when Qui-Gon found him. It just happened to be a Force. Well, he was
an immaculate conception, but
sure. But Qui-Gon also
happened
happened to just randomly find this kid that
Anakin was Jesus.
Yeah,
Space
sure.
Jesus.
But in that sense, yes, he kind of came out of nowhere.
Well, you see people on like Facebook and Twitter saying like, "Oh, Rey's parents being nobody who creates a plot hole in the universe because how did she get the Force then?" But let's not forget, in Star Wars lore, Jedi's were meant to be celibate. What is that the word? I know they're not allowed to have romantic relationships. So where did the Jedi come from? They have to be selected or chosen or just random fate of the universe. And the only people who were able to have Force powers given to them by a bloodline would have been Luke Skywalker and Anakin. Like, would have been that family connection.
Yeah, the Force isn't passed through genetics. And if you want to be completely technical about it, it depends on whether you have midichlorians in your blood. But I don't know if that's canon anymore. So
Probably
I don't want to be that guy who has to pull out the midichlorians textbook.
That's a really good point. I haven't thought of that. Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot more sense that the Force just picks people randomly because if they're celibate, they can't pass on the Jedi gene. If there is such a thing.
It's like what Snoke says. For the dark that rises, light has to meet it. And I love the talk of balance and what the Force is, and how Luke explains to I guess it's the first lesson that they learn when she just reaches out and he hits her with the plane, which is a great moment. But
that was my favorite bit. Luke trolling her with that leaf.
Oh, that must mean you're really strong with the Force.
that really does feel like that was Mark Hamill's humor. I wouldn't mind betting that he's the reason that joke is in.
Well, it's also very Yoda. Like, if that's something Yoda would have pulled way back in his old training days, I feel like. Oh, we'll talk about Yoda in a second, by the way. But in terms of what they talk about what the Force is, and we get that really cool montage of the plants growing, and we see, this beautiful family of porgs. Oh, this family of porgs ever got washed away by the ocean, and we're seeing, for all this great light, there's this great darkness, and in between, this balance. And it really reminds everybody what the Force actually is. It's not just something that you can do cool things with, but at the same time, sometimes you also have to do cool things, like moving the rocks at the end. That's the stuff that I loved in this movie, and when they really focused in on that, it was beautiful.
Sure, but before we move on from the Rey parents thing, that's one of the things I was talking about in the beginning of this podcast. Is they definitely did change whose Rey's parents were going to be because of the internet. Because in the novelization of The Force Awakens, it says, in the scene where she shows up on the island and goes to give him the lightsaber, it says, and this is accepted canon, approved by Disney, that he knows who she is. He recognizes her. He knows who she is. They change it in the movie. He's like, who the hell are you? So she was definitely going to be either Luke's.
Well, also in the novelization, Snoke knows. In the novelization, Snoke knows who she is because he's talking to her while she's fighting Kylo Ren, if I'm not mistaken. In Force Awakens novelization.
And it's also implied in the Force Awakens movie that Kylo Ren knows who she is, because there's a bit where that commander guy is like, "Oh, the droid's gotten off the planet." It's some girl.
And then he says,
and
"What
he grabs her by the Force. He's like, "What girl?" Like he knows about her.
I just like to think that Kylo Ren's just a massive sexist. Like, what girl? There's a girl.
No girls allowed. This is just Force guys, only boys.
Yeah. And in front on Kylo Ren's office, he actually has a really standard office with a desk and a lamp and everything. It just says no girls allowed, but it's girls with a U instead of an I. No girls.
Either that, or because there's Captain Phasma's the only girl apparently in the First Order. He's like, really, who is she? Let me touch fingertips with her across the galaxy.
Well, so having not read The Force Awakens novelization or read that passage or the ending of the book, is the language broad enough so it could be interpreted that Luke Skywalker knows that she's a Force user as opposed to knowing exactly who she is?
Easily, I'm sure you can work your way around it. But
well, it also says that when Leia hugs her, she gives her a mother's embrace.
Okay.
I mean, it could just mean that she's acting like that's deliberate mother, enough to she is her mother, but
So maybe the book is just trolling Star Wars fans for the
I don't think so. I think they definitely were planning to make it that her parents are someone significant, but they changed it. Because I think
they're tooling with you, sir.
That's a pretty long con for them to pull off. I don't think they really think that far ahead.
I also think Rian Johnson didn't want to do what J.J. Abrams wanted to do with this franchise. Because much like, have you guys seen Thor Ragnarok? You've seen Thor Ragnarok, right, Bandit? So in Thor Ragnarok, when Hela goes to Asgard and they walk down the Great Hall and she sees the Infinity Gauntlet, she's like, it's a fake. And she just kind of she flings it out, and I feel like Luke throwing the lightsaber over his shoulder was a how do I say this? a embodiment, as if to say that nothing you thought mattered before actually matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also think that entire philosophy has been applied to Snoke as well.
Absolutely.
People are actively pissed that Snoke is like now gone from this universe, and they were like,
we don't have any information. Where did he come from?
Well,
who was he? Now all the nerds
care.
are going to come and say,
I don't-
well, you have to read the books.
No, I love that we don't know anything about this. He was just a guy that was ultimately there just to be. He was just there to be essentially Kylo Ren to Obi-Wan. He was a catalyst for Kylo Ren to go into the dark side. Kylo Ren is your villain of this trilogy.
But it doesn't work because it's like, okay, where was he during Palpatine's reign? Where was he?
Absolutely.
Looks like he's old enough to live through
I'm sure
all
that there's going to be expanded
hibernating?
universe
Was he
material too.
And that sucks. That sucks.
No, but
listen.
See, that's
Wait,
why
let me
that
finish the
I'm sorry, but
Let me finish the point.
Go.
I'm sure there'll be expanded universe material that fills in all these details and stuff. But in terms of the actual information that the audience needs to know in this story, is that Snoke is just a new bad guy who is going to be the progenitor for Kylo Ren's arc, and also that it's kind of he's maybe like Tarkin in A New Hope. Like he's a bad guy. Yeah. That is his role, to be a bad guy, and you don't necessarily need a backstory or an origin or explanation as to where he's been, but that information is nice to have, maybe, but it's not prudent to the film, and I think that it's just a great subversion.
Yeah. I also think it's nice that we have all this build-up with Snoke from the first movie where he's like 50 feet tall, and then we meet him in this movie, and he's not a short guy either. He towers over.
And his hand is the size of Rey's face,
and he's great. And I also love the fact that he's in like this pimp coat. There's so much build-up. We get these gorgeous shots of his throne room, which made me as a filmmaker.
Space Hugh Hefner. With the golden
but I think it looks great. He looks great, and he's giving this great performance, and he's cackling, and he's so fun to watch. And you think, and the moment Kylo Ren tries to stand up, he like shoots him down with lightning. He hits right in the back of the head with her own lightsaber, which I thought was beautiful.
I love how he threw hooks around in the opening of the film.
Yeah, that's a fantastic, because I'm so torn on that, because I love the fact that they subverted expectations of killing him, because that was my biggest criticism from Force Awakens. They didn't take any risks, so I love that. But at the same time, I was like, in that scene, like right before they turn the lightsaber and he gets killed, like they built him up so well, and where he explains how I bridged your minds, which surprisingly a lot of reviews missed that. I don't know how they missed that point, but he says, I'm the one who bridged your minds because I knew Kylo Ren's conflicted.
I am the author,
and you would not be able to.
I thought,
and you would not be able to resist the temptation to try and turn him to the light side. So he used Kylo to bring Rey to him, and I was like, wow, that's really schemy. That's better than the Emperor. Really and then he's doing all that stuff where she tries to grab the lightsaber like Luke did, and he just flips it around and whacks her in the head, and I was like, how are you going to beat this guy? And what he's saying with Kylo Ren, he's like, I cannot be betrayed. I was like, oh my god, this guy's amazing. How's it gonna? Oh,
well, here's the thing, though. Bandit, I know you may not like that, but they did set that up beautifully when Luke was talking to Rey about hubris and what ended up taking down the Jedi in itself, because they were so powerful and they were so on top of things, and they had no idea that Darth Sidious was just rising up underneath their feet, and it was just like that. And the way they set things up, and like with Luke's death, about how when Kylo Ren's like, "How are you doing this? This much effort would kill you." People have seemingly missed that line, because when you watch a second time, he says it when they first see each other, and it sets up the fact that if she was attempting to do this in front of him, the restraint would be too much for her. It would kill her, kind of like, I guess, using the Force kind of like a. So he does it for so long, and he has to do so much that it ends up killing him in a beautiful scene. But I do like the fact that we have all this set up with Snoke, and then they just kill him because it doesn't matter, and what you thought matters doesn't matter.
Because what matters is Kylo Ren and his growth.
It's like we all got a telegram from Ryan Johnson. It's like, nana boo boo, you thought. Like, it was just, I just thought it was so great. It was so much subversion.
I agree with everything you just said. That's why I'm torn about it, because it's like, I agree with everything you said. It's fantastic, and it's like, it's great that it's subverting expectations. Nothing you thought does matter. But it does matter. It does matter. Like, the previous movies do matter. Like, Luke throwing his lightsaber, that was his father's lightsaber that he was dueling his own father with when his hand was cut off, and it finally returns him after all that time. That does matter. So it's like...
It's also the symbol of his past that he doesn't want to come back to. So it would make sense that he immediately just chucks it over the cliff.
Yeah.
But I think it was also a test for Rey. But I think there's a lot of meaning behind that throwaway besides the meta meaning of it filmmaking-wise.
True. And that's like... but it's like, I did kind of like get Prometheus vibes in a way.
Okay,
and I mean in that they raised a lot of questions that they built up as being so important, and then they just kind of threw them away. And I was like,
I think a lot of the questions were ones that fans built up amongst themselves, like kind of who is Snoke, who is Rey's parents,
absolutely
and stuff.
not. The movies pumped those up so much. Like, this is the grandest mystery in the history of the world.
I'll give you Rey's parents as being the mystery, but the Snoke thing was entirely feigned. Because we know
even
about
Rey's parents weren't, because Maz Kanata has that speech saying it doesn't matter where it's all about moving forward. Yeah. I think that was the whole point of The Force Awakens.
Yeah, they do end up, in a sense, resolving that plot line with Rey's parents by her
or at least saying that it's not important, but fans just clung to it because that's kind of how we've been taught to accept franchise films now.
Meanwhile, no one cares about Luke Skywalker's lightsaber, which they did not resolve in this movie.
Yeah,
either. No one cares about that.
Yeah, that mystery box bit was bullshit. Like, oh, that's a story for another time. Like, no, Maz Kanata, you tell us now, all right?
Like, no, JJ, I'm not going to let that slide.
No, that was just lazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still. Anyways, but speaking of Maz Kanata and weird father-mother figures, Yoda.
Oh God.
Or
okay,
as he's being called on the internet, drunk Yoda.
Okay, so let me say something. So I'm watching the movie, and I made a bet like 7 months, whenever the first trailer came out. I made a bet that Yoda was in the movie, and like the moment he's like Luke's walking up the steps, the camera pans, and we see the ears, and people lose it. And I turned to my friend Christian, I'm like, he owes me $5. I was so happy. It looked weird for a bit, didn't it? It's like they used 2 different kinds of puppets.
Yeah.
Right? It looked weird a little bit, right? I don't know, maybe it's because they used the 2, like the Phantom Menace puppet and then the actual puppet. But there was a while where I was like, this is the wrong puppet. But then it's like out of nowhere, it just worked again. Maybe it was the music, I don't know. But it was a beautiful scene. And seeing him come back, everything about it is just so Yoda. It's so Yoda. The way he destroys the tree, the way he laughs about it. He did
have some good, wise Yoda lines as well. Actually, I want to ask you guys this, because I'm not sure if I heard this correctly. But I'm not sure, because after he burns the tree and they're sitting next to each other, I'm not sure whether Yoda says... because he's talking about us masters, he says, we are what they, meaning the students, we are what they overcome. That's the burden of all masters, in that the student will eventually overtake the master. I'm not sure if he said that, or if he said, we are what we overcome.
Yeah.
Because either one of them are very profound statements. I'm not sure which it was. Which did you hear?
Well, I think it was the second one, but he also talks about how failure is the best teacher of them all, which is another great lesson. That's my...
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's so... And I love how when you see them, he's like, young Skywalker. It just warmed my heart. There are so many moments in this movie that were just so profound and beautiful. And then they had to cut back to that stupid kid with the broom. That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying, like, in my non-spoiler, I said there, for every 3 incredible things they did one thing where I was like, that's bad. Let's not do that. Let's take that out.
Well, there's, I just loved that whole scene from beginning to end. And there's a behind-the-scenes documentary on The Phantom Menace when Frank Oz is looking at some of the dailies and looking at like Jar Jar Binks footage and thinking, I'm out of a goddamn job because there's going to be no more puppets, it's all going to be CGI. And here he is, like fully vindicated, like 15, 16 years later. But I just thought it was just a great scene, and it is a great lesson about how failure is the best lesson to learn. And like, how many movies have that, are brave enough to have that as a moral? Like,
and I also love read the sacred text. Have you? Well.
Page turners they were?
They were not.
Yeah, that's Yoda trolling the prequels right there, because those books were the prequels.
And also Yoda doing his classic Jedi doublespeak. There's nothing in that library the girl Rey does not already possess. She took the books with her, and I'm sure he knew that when he destroyed the tree. And I love that line is there, because he's doing that classic thing of like, well, technically there's nothing in this library that she doesn't already have.
Well, see, this is where the movie's a little bit muddled in what its theme is and what message it's trying to get across. Because on the one hand, failure is our biggest teacher. That's true. You need to fail your way to success. But then 5 seconds later, he turns around and he's like, oh no, Rey already knows everything. Everything. Absolutely everything. Don't need to worry about it. Don't need to teach her.
I think that was more something
she's going to train a whole new
Luke...
generation of Jedi, even though she's never learned anything from Luke.
That was something that Luke needed to learn. This was something that Luke needed to pick up on. I think this was something that this was one of the kind of the bigger catalysts that Luke needed to have for him to do what he ends up doing in the third act on Crate. I think that was essentially, I think Yoda knew that Luke was in a time of conflict with himself, like, what do I do? And Yoda came to help him out. And I think that's also why he goes from saying the Jedi needs to end to saying that actually we need to evolve what the Jedi actually are. And I think that's why the film kind of... Because I've heard people comment about how it's weird that he says the Jedi need to be gone, and then when he goes on Crate, he says, I will not be the last of the Jedi. That's kind of his whole story arc, I guess. I think that's because that Yoda scene happened. Does that make sense?
Mm. Yeah. But it's like, well, they definitely did tone down the Mary Sue powers to a huge degree in this. Probably because they changed who her parents were going to be, I think.
Yeah.
As well as all the backlash and all that. Still no explanation, but I did like how Snoke also called Kylo Ren out on, you got your ass kicked by a teenage girl who never even held a lightsaber before. You suck. Yeah. And I was like, okay, good. I feel validated.
I love how he goes and destroys the helmet too. I love how he's like, take that stupid thing off. Like he's like, it's like when your dad catches you playing with toys and you're like too old for them. He's like, just get rid of them. Go play sports. It was close to home there. Yeah, I thought it was Kylo Ren as a character.
Too close to home there, Trey.
Kylo Ren as a character.
Dad's like,
just
stop playing with those damn toys. Get out there and play some football.
Oh, wow. Well, then I started making movies. But my point was, like, Kylo Ren as a character was just... we haven't even gotten to the Force conversations. This movie does so much great stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't know. What do you guys think about those? The kind of Force Skype calls that they were having.
Those were my favorite part of the movie, actually. Because, I mean, apart from Luke, I'd say Kylo is the next most interesting character because of he's conflicted and you're not sure which way he's going to go. With Rey, you kind of always know she's going to be good. And other characters don't really know what they're about. But with Kylo, I think he's the most interesting. And I loved those conversations. I really did. But as soon as she turns around and sees him shirtless, I was like, they're not going to be brother and sister. Because there's obviously...
Did he put a cowl on or something?
I love that so much. I love
Adam Driver is jacked.
The comedic timing in that scene, it's like, I don't want to do this right now. Yeah, me too. Cuts to him naked. It was great. It was the best. Like he just got out the shower or something. I thought it was really great. And I love how Snoke was like, you know what? Let's do this at a time where maybe she can fall in love with him. Let's time this better. But those three conversations that they have with the Force are so beautiful. Yeah. And this is gonna sound weird, but it was almost like Jon Snow and Daenerys, minus the whole aunt nephew thing. I just felt like there was such a good connection with these people. The chemistry there was palpable. You could literally see sparks fly. It was great.
It's a testament to Adam Driver and Daisy Ridley. The fact that they work as acting opposite nothing, with the exception of like one of the final ones where they touch fingers and they're like together in the same room. And there's also just the great moment where they disconnect from each other and there's rainwater on Kylo Ren's glove.
Yes.
It's just really well done. I just really enjoyed those like smaller details.
Yeah, I love also the moment when she first sees him, she tries to shoot him. That was a great touch. And how and
it damages clever.
The caretaker's house.
Yes.
Yeah. But also it's clever. It's clever storytelling as well. Like those little details, they're not there by accident. Like the rainwater, he sees it on his glove. That's a setup for later on that when Luke gives those bead thingamajigs to Leia and kisses her on the forehead, she can actually feel it because it's established that physical things can pass through. But it's interesting.
There's some force manipulation there.
But that indicates that if someone's powerful enough, they could kind of teleport themselves. If you can reach through and touch fingertips,
as much as it was more like. It's almost like in the Danger Room in the X-Men films and the X-Men franchise. It's almost like it's like augmented reality, like an episode of Black Mirror. It's like the water's not actually there, but it looks like it's dripping from his hand.
Well, I suppose you could say that since their minds are connected, if they touch fingertips in their mind, they will actually feel it, even though they're not physically touching fingertips because the brain processes the nervous system and all that sort of stuff. So you could say that. But yeah, that water on the glove is interesting. It's like, was that really there? Was he just only in his mind perceiving it, or was it really there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought that their stuff was the best stuff from the movie. Like, I loved all the Luke and Rey stuff, but I thought the connection between Rey and Kylo was so just, it was wonderful. Muy caliente. I thought it was great. Especially once again when they don't end up sticking together. And like at the end when Rey shuts the door on Kylo, I was just heartbroken. I was like, no, please. It was so, it almost there. It almost happened.
I also just love the whole bitch fits that Kylo Ren and General Hux have with each other.
Yes.
And like when Snoke is dead
Right
and
away,
Rey's
sir.
escaped, and Kylo Ren wakes up and it's like, oh, the girl did it. The girl killed Snoke. We gotta get her.
That's
And
a great touch, by the way, when Hux almost shoots him, and when he comes back, he puts his gun away. I thought that was such a nice moment.
Yeah.
But one of the best jokes in the movie, like Supreme Leader, do not get distracted. It's like he sends Hux across the room, and that General, right away, sir. Yes, of course. I thought that was the best.
Yeah. So I wonder what kind of Supreme Leader Kylo Ren's going to be, because if they're going to make him the ultimate bad guy in the next one, they're going to have to make it that he goes full dark side and he's more decisive. He's not conflicted like he was in the last two movies. And they can do a last-minute redemption if they want. But he's definitely going to need to be resolute and that he's now the man.
Well, at the beginning of The Last Jedi, he's conflicted between like the dark side and the light side, and I think by the end of The Last Jedi, he's conflicted, but not in such a binary way. He doesn't even know what is up or down anymore. He's kind of, his whole moral compass has been completely thrown off. Like he's killed his supreme leader, and he tried to have an alliance with the one person who he thought he could relate to or empathize with, and she turned him down, and he has no idea what to do anymore. So I don't even think it's necessarily he's going to turn all the way to the dark side. He's going to go onto a completely different spectrum.
I think these movies are building to Grey Jedi. I think that's what we're going to end up with by the end of the trilogy. I don't know. Maybe JJ's going to want to have this happy ending.
Yeah.
But I feel like
there's something completely different. Yeah.
I feel like that's what we're ultimately going to build towards. Because I love that line where Kylo's talking to Rey and Rey says, "No, we have to end the war." And Kylo's like, "You're still holding on to what was before." He's like, "It's time to let go and do something new." And I was just thinking, yes, Ryan. Yes, Mr. Johnson. This is exactly what Star Wars needs to be right now, which is why I keep saying I respect it more than I like the movie, because Bryan Johnson had the balls to say, we're going to do something so different with Star Wars right now, and it's really is what Star Wars needs to be. Yeah. Yeah,
because at the end of the film, even though he didn't directly kill Luke, he would have done it if he had the chance. So he's gone off the deep end in a way.
Yeah.
He didn't know that he was just a projection. He, for all intents and purposes, went to kill Luke Skywalker. Yeah. So there is really no true redemption for this character anymore.
Yeah, I do think Rey's going to have to kill him, but I think it's going to be really sad when she does it. I think she's going to have to kill him, though, which is going to break my heart.
We do get a glimpse of like what he's going to be in the next movie. In that, like you said, Trilby, is like from his perspective, like everyone he's known has betrayed him at this point. Like Rey's rejected him, Luke tried to kill him, all this sort of stuff. So, like, what does someone do when they feel like in that situation? Well, like Kylo Ren said to Luke at the end, he's like, I'm going to kill Rey. I'm going to burn everything down.
Great line. Ben, I'm sorry. Yeah, I bet you are. That was so perfect. I love that. I love that entire fight. Can we talk about that now? Should we talk about the Luke versus Kylo stuff?
Yeah.
Did you notice the footprints in the salt?
The second time I watched it, yes, I noticed the footprints. Yes, yeah. I was watching for it.
That was such a great visual, though. Like it's like when they're shooting at Luke and the ground explodes and it looks all red, and it looks like Luke's getting blown apart. And like when Kylo like swipes and you think he's cutting right through the middle, and then he slides to a stop and his foot goes and leaves.
Yeah, and his foot moves. Yes, that red stain.
Really visceral.
I thought it was great. I was watching the movie and Luke says his goodbye to Leia in a beautiful scene. He says bye to C-3PO and I almost cried. And the music like this heroic Imperial march starts playing, and like it cuts to and we get that really cool shot of him facing off against the Imperial army, which they set up earlier in the movie when he's like, "It makes me to grab my laser sword and face with the Imperial army," and then he does kind of. I thought they were going to end it right there. I thought that was going to be the last shot. I was like, they're going to end it right here, aren't they? I'm like, this is going to be the last shot of the movie. I thought they were going to cliffhanger us so bad, and they did, and they resolved that conflict in a beautiful
I'd be so mad if they ended it there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But honestly, I felt like that if they wanted to, they easily could have. And episode 9 just would have been what happens after.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That whole arrival scene is why I think this is Mark Hamill, like his best ever performance, because like just the confidence he exudes and that wink he gives to C-3PO, like, yeah, I got this.
And for those of you guys who can look up "The Spark" by John Williams. That's what the soundtrack in this scene is called.
I'm going to bookmark that to listen to it later.
"The Spark" by John Williams. It's such a good track. Because you hear the Luke and Leia theme from Return of the Jedi as well. It sounds beautiful.
And the goodbye he gives to Leia, like, did Disney know Carrie Fisher was going to die?
I know that
sounds grim.
Yeah.
It's like they reshot some of the stuff just to hold on to her a little bit longer.
It kind of makes me think that, when Harrison Ford had that plane crash and he didn't die, that Disney actually organized that so he could die, so The Force Awakens could be more dramatic.
like instead of Kylo Ren stabbing him, they drop a plane on him.
Yeah, like obviously this is gallows humor. Listeners, don't take this seriously, but it is kind of like the way the goodbye scene and the way how they're silhouetted with the sunlight in the background as he kisses her on the forehead. It's just it's so
right there. That's a great picture.
Yeah, it's just so perfectly done and so moving and wonderful, and that's like even like if you put aside the fact that Mark Hamill is always like tweeting or Instagramming photos of him and Carrie Fisher together and how much fun they were having on set, and like those two were clearly like really good friends with each other.
I love how they were able to have their cake and eat it too in the best kind of way of where we got to see the reunited of Luke and Leia, but at the same time Luke was not stupid enough to actually go and face Kylo Ren because he is a smart man,
and that fits. That does fit with Luke's character, because remember when Luke had to fight Vader, he said to Ghost Obi-Wan, he's like, I can't kill my own father, and ultimately he didn't. So like it makes sense as well that he'd go out as a Force ghost, but he's like, I can't kill my own nephew. Like that fits with who he is. So because like
if he couldn't do it when he was younger and had like the ability to, what makes him he was going to be able to do it now when he was far more broken and shattered of what he was before?
Yeah.
Great reveal, by the way, from him being like see you around, kid, fading away to cut to him like floating on the rock, still on the island.
His last words to Ben were Han Solo's words, because Han Solo always used to say that to Luke.
See you around, kid. It's so many different plot devices and stuff coming together to create just a really seamlessly brilliant like third act climax. Like, because he can't get off the island, he doesn't have a space. Well, oh no, he's got that sunken.
Well, that's what that was. Like that was such a red herring because they planted that there specifically. Like, oh well, he could float it out like Yoda did back in Dagobah.
Yeah,
and so we thought,
because in a way because Ray says maybe what we need is a legend. Mm-hmm. So if he turns up in this idealized older Grand Master Jedi version of himself to mess with the First Order, because maybe like from where Hux and the other First Order troops were from, maybe they saw this massive display of power. They don't know that he was a hologram. Maybe from a distance they saw Kylo Ren cut through him, and then he fades away, and Luke does become this legend, this Jedi myth in their eyes.
Well, the kid's talking about it at the end, isn't he? He's like, and then Luke Skywalker faced off against the First Order or whatever.
Well, that's actually something interesting they could do in the next movie, because Rey and Leia both sense that Luke died, but there's no indication that Ben sensed that Luke died. So they could sort of use this idea that Luke is out there and could pop up at any time to sort of like as like a propaganda tool kind of thing.
I'm thinking that they do a time jump, clever. By the way. I'm thinking episode 9 is going to be a time jump, and it's going to cut to Rey with a new order of Jedi. I think that's...
Yeah, Rey's got like an old grey beard.
Yeah, well, no, obviously. But I'm thinking... Thanks, children. Once again, Trilby hacked my laptop and read my Star Wars script. Anyways, no, but you. By the way, if I may, and I have one of my dream projects is to make a Star Wars movie, and in my Star Wars movie, I had a ship go light speed through another ship, and they did it in this movie, and I got very angry. I was like, no. I was like, no, that's how I opened my movie.
Don't you hate it when that happens, when actual Star Wars movies contradict stuff you made in a fan fiction one?
Yes.
Terrible.
God, it's awful. Yeah, Ben, it
happens a lot.
Yeah.
but that shot of the destroyed spaceship though, like from a distance, and it's got that like that hole torn through it, and it's from a distance. That is a stunning tableau. That is just a gorgeous shot.
Yeah,
that's one I could put on my desktop background. And also the Millennium Falcon flying through the diamond, like the underground of that planet, and there's the red diamonds all around them. That was another amazing shot.
And you hear the asteroid or whatever music. Pum, 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 pum.
Well, I'll tell you something. Like maybe the whole sort of theme of the movie of like you got to let the past die. Maybe that did actually get to me, because at the end with the Millennium Falcon, I was like, you know what? I think it's time we mothballed the Millennium Falcon.
Oh, absolutely.
Can we just get rid of it? Because it feels like it is holding us back at some point now.
I thought that, like, as beautiful as all the stuff with Luke was, and when it cuts to Rey lifting the rocks, as beautiful as that stuff was, the actual battle, besides looking beautiful, did nothing for me. I don't know what it is. Like, the opening space battle I thought was great, the opening space battle, but the Battle of Crate itself, I didn't get a lot from the actual battle itself, because it just seems like they just wanted to have, like, Rian Johnson just wanted to have a fun space battle on a planet. Like, he wanted to do his own planet of Hoth. Like, Rey's on the gun, and she's like, oh, this, I like this. But it feels, like, really cheesy and out of place. It's like, oh, they hate that ship. And then Kylo Ren's like, destroy that ship. And you're like, oh, it's funny. If
they are going to destroy the Millennium Falcon, though, they need to give it a good send-off. It would have actually been cool if the Millennium Falcon was the one that light speeds through the Dreadnought. And like cut Snoke's, like maybe Chewie, you could kill Chewie as well. He'd be like,
nah, dude, you have Leia, have Leia get on that ship, and
have the Porgs do it.
Yes, those bloody Porgs. They were all
you have the Porg get off. Yeah, you have the Porg leave they leave their family behind on a nest somewhere on the rebel ship, and the one Porg goes off and they're just blah, blah, and he just punches it.
I think it happens completely by accident. There's a Porg in the main cockpit and starts pecking buttons, and the Millennium Falcon slowly turns around, and the Porg accidentally goes into light speed and destroys the ship.
No, but in all seriousness, that's the way you could have taken out Leia, was to be Leia's I have an idea, and she gets in the Falcon and she goes in light speeds through the ship. That would have been pretty sick. I don't know, but is the Falcon powerful enough? Is the Falcon big enough?
You know, the purple haired chick. So she crashes Admiral Akbar's ship through through Snoke's ship.
Yeah, the Radisson. It
would have been great having Akbar do it as well. That would have been a good send-off for him. But so she does that, and it's because they don't have autopilot. So again, why does the Resistance not have autopilot? Why don't you have hackers? Why don't you have autopilot?
We can't eject. We can't eject.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to clarify. No autopilot. So I'm straight up sacrificing myself.
Oh, God,
or just have him get shot and then go, oh no, it's deactivated. That's all we need.
Yeah. I think it would have been better if instead of the Millennium Falcon tearing through that ship, it is Leia using her force powers to fly through. So she Superman style bursts through.
It's like Yando's arrow in Guardians, slow motion.
Yes.
Everyone's freaking out.
But instead of an arrow, it's Princess Leia.
It's Leia's fingers flying through people. The Leia music's playing all beautifully and melodically.
No, it's not the Leia music. It's the music from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 that plays during that sequence.
It's like the disco Star Wars theme, so it's just done in a really cool funky beat.
No, it's the Cantina music.
Oh, have fun animating that, Bandit.
Oh God!
No, but
I just have this image of it's the final battle of Man of Steel, but instead of Henry Cavill's face, it's Princess Leia's face.
Oh God! Oh, it's like Justice League.
Where were you trained? On Alderaan.
On a moisture farm.
You're nothing, Leia. You're scum, rebel scum, and she flies through with her finger.
Shut up and have some green milk.
Guys,
do you think Phasma is still alive? Do you reckon
I can watch. Wait! Before we jump to Phasma, I can watch Luke drink green milk all day.
Oh,
that was such a nice
that was the worst.
I loved that.
Why would you have him suckling off a weird alien
because
cow
this
thing?
movie is all about
rape the civilized image of the Jedi.
This movie, Bandit, listen to me. This movie is all about destroying the image of what we thought Star Wars was and stop romanticizing this franchise.
It's all about killing the past.
And it beautifully destroys. it destroys green or blue milk, anything like that, by just having like this really dirty old man like suckle the teeth of this giant walrus thing and have his beard be all gross and milky. It was I
Even
was
Ray
dying.
was weirded out by it.
She
Like,
looked
"This is
away.
awkward.
She-
This
Because
is
the
really
creature
awkward."
looked at her while it was happening.
And it was like,
That
oh
was-
yeah.
But
I was dying in the theater. It was so funny.
it was so
Whose
cool.
idea
Like
is that? Seriously. I mean, that's
but it's
Johnson.
that's such
the
a
little
terrible idea.
Because the
He's
little
like-
moments on that island, like when Luke Skywalker goes fishing and Chewbacca is trying to eat the porg, and the porg is looking at him.
Yeah, like I'm saying, guys, this movie does for every three things that I love it does. It keeps cutting back to that bloody storyline on that weird planet, and then like it has that weird PETA moment, and then just try to think, man, this was a beautiful Star Wars movie. It cuts to the kid for some reason. Like, why? Why do you do that?
I'm
I hate it
sorry.
so
I
much.
It's
like
because
that
they have
ending.
to drive in. They have to drive in the idea that slavery is terrible, unless it's robot slavery. That's apparently okay in Star Wars.
Oh, that's fine. I like it when Leia
Why do-
does
why do
to
they have
C-3PO, get that expression off your face.
Yeah.
I will certainly try, Princess. I love that.
Oh, and R2-D2 plays the message from A New Hope.
Talk about a moment I cried. I cried a few times this movie, guys. This happened to be one of them. It was so perfect.
The bit that almost got me, that almost made me cry, was the two sons at the end, and the
Oh,
music
God.
kicks.
Yeah.
I did.
that
The
was-
first time I saw it, it didn't get me, but it was the second time because I knew it was happening, and the music starts playing, and he like gets on. He starts on. It was, oh god,
Yeah,
I'm getting emotional
I
again.
was happy with that send off for Luke, despite all the problems I had with the earlier stuff of him kind of being a coward and hiding on the island, and still not really having a good explanation as to why you think the Jedi should die out. But that send off to him was, I was okay.
It was
I was like,
John Will.
okay,
and
good.
that track's called Peace and Purpose, by the way. The Luke's death track. It's great because when you read the comments, people are like, I haven't seen the movie, but I think I know what happens here. I'm like, yeah, maybe you shouldn't listen to the soundtrack, moron. It might as well have been called Luke's funeral. Yeah.
Oh, why is one of the tracks called Decapitated Snoke?
Why is one track that has Snoke's theme and then leads into the Force theme and Kylo Ren's theme? That's weird. Wait, why is this track playing the Yoda soundtrack? Gee, I wonder.
Oh, wasn't
Yeah.
there a track on the Phantom Menace soundtrack genuinely called The Death of Qui-Gon?
Qui-Gon's Noble End is what it's.
Okay,
yes.
that's okay.
Yes.
You know, they need to be very careful with how much of the Force Ghost stuff they do, because we know
yeah.
Disney through Marvel loves to do they're dead, they're back, but you overuse
What I
it.
will say
Like,
about
we know
what I
we're
will
going
say
to see
about
Luke
that is-
again. I don't know if you'd want to see Luke again, because that
What
was
I will
such a
say
good
is that-
send-off.
I'm gonna excuse Yoda like physically manipulating things to the Force because he is old. Like 900-year-old UB, see how good you look. He has had the time to completely master what the Force is, and so I will buy that he can do things that other Force users won't be able to do as Force Ghost. I'm completely okay with that because Yoda's so old.
Well,
You know what I mean?
If Yoda can like do a strike of lightning when he's dead, then I'm sure Luke can do some stuff.
I don't know, man. I feel like Yoda is more powerful than Luke. I don't know. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, maybe.
But
you know what I really would like to see in the last movie? I would like, because they've talked a bit about maybe could they bring Hayden Christensen back as a Force Ghost in like some of the Rey
I was
visions
convinced
earlier.
they were going to because they started selling Anakin toys again.
I would
so I presume
love-
they were going to bring him back in this one.
I would love to see Kylo Ren have a visit from the Hayden Christensen Force Ghost, and of course Kylo wouldn't know who that is. He'd be like, "Who the hell are you?" And like Hayden could just be like, "Just a friend," or
That'd
something
be
like that.
great.
And especially
What
if
if that's what
Hayden's
turns him
got
to the
like
good
the
side?
Attack of the Clones hair, which kind of long, because then he looks very similar to Kylo.
That'd be great. Well, originally they were going to have a half Vader, half Anakin Ghost in Force Awakens that was going to talk with Kylo, and I'm glad they got rid of that. But could you imagine if that's what turns him good? Is it's not Leia because it can't be Leia anymore because Leia's gone.
Because I mean,
Could you imagine if it's
Kylo
like Anakin?
smashed his own mask, but presumably he has not destroyed the Vader mask that he still has.
Yeah,
So that'd be great. Yeah, I'd love that.
that would be speculation time. Oof. Yes.
I can't believe I'm actually cheering to see Hayden Christensen as Anakin again, but I would like that. That'd be good.
What I will say is that when I first saw the movie, my biggest issue with it was that it felt so resolute. Like my friend Christian was over. He's like, "This feels like episode 9." It felt like we ended the story kind of. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of resolution here, with the exception of like one or two things. Like the only thing we don't have is a conflict resolution between between Rey and Kylo. Like that's the thing we're missing. But besides that, we lost Snoke. Luke died. Like we had a lot of end in this movie, and I thought, and so I was wondering where we were going to go from here, but maybe if they do a time jump or something, that this is going to sound weird, there may be hope for this franchise.
One complaint I've heard is that it seems like not a lot actually happened plot-wise in this film, or like character-wise. I know it's weird, but I'm thinking of the merits or the lack thereof, depending on how we feel about this film, will be apparent come episode 9. How does all of this come together, because this does, for better or for worse, feel like a middle chapter. So there are still some dangling plot threads, like what's going to happen with Kylo Ren, what's going to happen with the First Order now that he's taken over, and like how does everybody react to Luke going, or do they fully comprehend what's happened? And also, has Poe actually learnt the lesson that is fed to him forcefully in this film? What is Finn going to do next? A lot of this stuff is stuff we're not going to know until like December 2019. So it's a case of just we've got to maybe wait or like sit on this film for a bit until its true merits or its true purpose in the franchise as a whole is fully apparent, which is not the best way to treat films, but it's kind of the corner that we've been stuck in.
But I also think that this film does have its own, I feel like this film is its own complete standalone film, in my personal opinion. Like, things that are set up at the start of this film, for the most part, are paid off. We may not have the end to the overarching story, but we are established the conflict between Rey and Kylo at the start of the movie, and that part of what we establish is in the sake of this film, it's ended. Luke's story is ended. Finn has his resolution. All that stuff is, in a sense, over in terms of this film's story. It kind of
feels like the beginning of a new trilogy, but there's only one movie left of the trilogy, because Snoke's gone, Luke's gone, we know Carrie Fisher's going to be gone, and it's like Kylo and Rey are kind of more fully fleshed characters now, so it feels like a new beginning. It's even with the whole the Resistance is Reborn thing. But they've only got one movie left, so I was like, I actually wouldn't mind if they did a couple more to build the new.
They have this thing called 10, 11, 12. They could easily just I remember reading something they wanted to take a break after episode 9. Will we
see Kylo Ren and Rey pump out a few kids at some point? Who knows?
Kylo Ray.
Kylo Ray. Should happen.
Oh, yeah. So if you get Ben, you get Ben. You get Ray. I mean, Bay. I mean, that's your.
Yeah, there you go.
That's your ship name. Just stop it, Ben. You just feel old. No, okay, all right. So honestly, though, here's my quick question. So, what would you title episode 9? You know what I mean? I rewatched The Crawl trying to think about what the title could be, because The Last Jedi was in the episode 7 Crawl. I have no idea what episode 9 is going to be called.
Okay, so I assume we can't
Return of Fan Service.
I assume we can't use Porg anywhere in the title, right? So Attack of the Porg or something like. So we can't.
Porg of the Jedi.
Well, let's see. So it's Force Awakens, The Last Jedi. I wouldn't mind something to do with balance of the Force, or something like that, or
Balance of the Force is
Darkest Light, or something weird like that.
Yeah.
How to annoy a fan base in 3 steps.
How to raise a lot of questions and then not answer them.
Suck it, JJ. Your move, JJ.
Star Wars Episode 9: How to Lose Friends and Alienate People.
Wow. That's an obscure poll.
It'll probably be something dumb like Lightness, Rise of the Light, or something like that.
I don't know. I remember when you hated The Last Jedi title, Bandit. I remember seeing that video. I remember that one where you're like, I hate this title. It's bad. Yeah. I feel like. Yeah,
well, it's because that combined with the red text, which we're all like, ooh, what does that mean? Is somebody turning evil if the text is red? No, it doesn't mean anything. So yeah, thanks.
It's just the motif of the movie, which is the color scheme is red, and it's such a gorgeous movie.
Yeah, I suppose it is red, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with something dumb and boring like Rise of the Light or something. Or
I'm just going to keep on throwing out joke names. Bad Moms 2. Star Wars Episode 9.
Infinity War. Yeah.
Curse of the Were-Rabbit.
Curse of the... Wow.
I guess they... I am not in the game at all of speculating or guessing titles. I'm terrible at it.
You're fine.
Well, if it's not Rise of the something, it'll be Dawn of the something. Dawn.
Yeah. Like the last something. I don't know.
Well,
I hope it's something that can continue the sentence, like The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, to get some coffee. I don't know, something like that.
They find like Luke's body on the island, and then they just like they hover a cup of coffee underneath his nose, and he wakes up. It's like, now I can start my day.
Well, I guess it depends as well what the story is. Like, I mean, Force Awakening is Force Awakening and Rey. It was more her story. Last Jedi is Luke, because this was more his story. So if they focus more on, say, Kylo in the next one, maybe it'll be something in regard to him. Like, didn't Snoke call him the son of darkness or the heir of darkness or something like that at one point?
Heir to the darkness. A Shattered Empire would be heir to the darkness. A Shattered Empire would be a nice title. Yeah. Well, don't like use that. That's what I would call my movie.
It wouldn't be Prince of Darkness. That'd be.
Well, if they title it something that Snoke said to Kylo Ren, then they could call it Star Wars Episode 9: A Child in a Mask.
No, they just call it
Episode 9. Take that stupid thing off. Yeah.
Episode 9: Punk ass bitch.
Oh yeah, that's the Kylo Ren being the undercover
and
boss,
Ice Cube is narrating the story. He narrates the opening crawl. Punks, this is Episode 9. The galaxy's in chaos. Kylo Ren's a punk. Rey's pretty cool. She can lift rocks.
Quit praying to Korean Jesus. Korean Jedi.
Luke is dead.
You ain't got time for your problems.
Luke is dead. Who's going to drink the milk? I don't care.
Seriously though, I'm banking the last movie will be focused more on Ben Solo, and the title's going to be something to do with him. So I'll go with Son of Darkness or Heir to the Darkness.
Maybe something to do with the Knights of Ren. That's like a legit suggestion because we don't. Because
where are the Knights
Luke
of
said
Ren?
that he took a few other students. So did they become the Red Imperial Guards?
They might
thought they were going to be. I thought this is where I thought it was going to go. Snoke dies, they team up, and the villains in the Episode 9 are the Knights of Ren, and it's essentially Kylo fighting his past demons, like literally. I thought that's what they were going with this, but they're not. So I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, I mean, if he shows up with the Knights of Ren in the next one, and Rey's trained a couple of like junior Jedis, that could be kind of cool. Gang fight!
Oh, that'd be so sick. Yes,
Force
Turf War. Yeah. Oh my god. Sorry, it was Episode 9, Turf War. Oh, dude, yes.
Episode 9, West Side Story.
Yeah, get a lightsaber flick knife.
It opens with them like snapping like Rey does in the cave. Snap, snap, snap.
Well, I hope they dance fight like in the movie too. It's like
yes.
But yeah, it's the John Williams music, and the orchestra is just like off camera playing.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea for episode. I guess that's where they're going to go. Probably is Rey and her new Jedi versus the Knights of Ren. Yeah. Oh man, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Because the whole Knights of Ren flashback, it's clearly an important part of the film that the filmmakers wanted us to know, because they show it 4 times.
And Rian Johnson didn't get rid of it, so I mean, they're clearly going to use it again. Because otherwise, Rian Johnson would have been like, you know what, that doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. That's why he did everything else.
But speaking of like Jedi and the lightsabers and the Knights of Ren and stuff, I'm kind of surprised that there was no actual lightsaber on lightsaber action.
Oh, we haven't even talked about the best shot in the movie,
which is the fight between the guards and Kylo and Rey.
Oh yes! Oh my god!
I loved how she throws him the lightsaber, and you don't even see it go through the guy's head, but it happened.
You just hear, and the camera swivels, and the guy just has a hole in his face.
Yeah.
Well,
he's gone.
Sorry to be a buzzkill, but she did technically save Kylo Ren's life there as well. And before that, she actually did beat Grandmaster Jedi Luke Skywalker with just a couple of whacks of her stick.
Mm-hmm. If Luke wanted her dead,
she's
Luke would have
Kylo Ren,
killed her.
Saved Kylo Ren, beaten up Luke Skywalker. Yeah, still got a bit to go before we shake Mary Sue thing.
If Luke wanted her dead, he'd be dead.
Yeah.
Like let's not act like Luke wouldn't have toasted her if he wanted.
No,
to.
the ultimate mic drop on that.
She grabbed the lightsaber. She could have killed him.
You don't think
right
he still doesn't have his green lightsaber on him? Please.
No, I think the ultimate mic drop for that scene would have been while Luke Skywalker's on the floor and she's seemingly got him beat. Then you just like the shot gets all dark and there's a shadow above them and it's Luke's X-wing above Rey. Like kill me!
That would have been so good.
Oh my god! Could you imagine
if she's got the lightsaber on him? Like, tell me what happened, and then he's like, just look up, and there's the X-wing flying there.
Or like maybe even something more simple, like she's like what's going on, and Luke just like looks to her left, and the camera pans, and you see his lightsaber pointed right at her face, like his green one just pointed right like to the side of her head, and you're just like, great. Yeah. To show that he was never in the back foot, but I don't think in the slightest.
Or it turns, he says, tell me what I need to know. He says, turn around, and there's like 500 porgs, like ready to pounce.
All led by like the lizard nuts.
By the way,
it's like that shot in A Bug's Life where all the ants come together and Hopper's like, "Oh, you lot stay back," and then they all get angry frowns.
Oh god. Now just replace the ants with like the internet and importing Hopper with Kevin Spacey, and it's just the exact same thing. I had to. Yep. No, but I don't think that Rey, because think about it, Rey only fought one at a time. She never fought more than two, I don't think. And but Kylo was taking out like three at a time. Like he was always just taking out three and like taking them all out. There was like a dozen guards, right?
She did fight off two people in The Force Awakens when on Jakku when Finn's about to go rescue her, and then like when they tried to take BB-8 on Jakku. So
and if she had drunk parents, I'm sure she had to learn how to defend for herself. Absolutely.
It could be like a Japanese Wu-Tang film when they get better at fighting as they drink.
Yes,
like drunk. Star Wars Episode 9, Drunken Master.
She stays fit by running away from all their drunk uncles. You know, all that stuff.
I
heard that joke somewhere else. I can't remember where I heard it from.
Yeah, and then they flash back to the subplot in Split.
Oh god, this took a turn. And then like the dad's played by Kevin Spacey. All right, fine, we've gone full circle.
No, because he doesn't like little girls.
Oh, Trilby.
Wrong gender.
Hey, I don't want to get into a big thing with this, but am I the only one that, like, when Kevin Spacey came out as gay, I thought he had already come out as gay. I was like,
I agree with you. I thought he already
was gay. I heard he was gay ages ago.
It was as well.
I think it was like a secret everybody knew about, but it wasn't explicitly stated.
Yeah, like Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Do you reckon that one's
like Tom Cruise or Kylo Ren?
Which one of you? You both asked me questions. I didn't know. I couldn't hear either of you.
I said, do you reckon it's true about Tom Cruise? I'm not sure.
Oh, I just think it's funny to comment on the fact that he's always running from his gay thoughts. You see him running a movie. That's what Family Guy says.
And like I said, it's an open secret like Tom Cruise or Kylo Ren. But I think that funny joke kind of got lost in the shuffle. So there we go.
That's
he's always walking around shirtless because like a stormtrooper, like the camera just pans over and you see a stormtrooper like lying in Kylo's chambers,
and then like Rey like force projects into there. It's like, oh my god!
He's like that's why he's like, oh, this is a very bad time.
Yeah, and she's like, yeah, I came at a bad time. And then there's Snoke watching the scene, like, I approve. And then it turns out
they touch fingertips, and then Snoke appears between him, and he's like, yeah, let's get this party started.
It turns out he's not wearing anything under the gold robe, so it's just this prudy, weird pinky man thing.
He really is spacey. Now. There you
go. And somehow we brought this all the way back to this old man penis. Okay, I don't know how he managed. I don't know how we managed to get there that quickly.
This is what makes it the Movie Mania podcast, Trey.
Well, one last
yeah, I was going to say
is, I know we talk about how all the theories about Snoke and Rey's parents and all that stuff. I actually think, because there were some of the theories about Snoke that came out were from channels that were like saying like here's the email, I got it from someone who works on the movie, blah, blah, blah. And it gave, like, I won't go into the whole thing, but it gave, like, the whole explanation of who Snoke is, and it made so much sense. And it lined up with stuff that happened in the trailer as well, like, perfectly. And it was before the trailer in question came out. So I was like, wow, that makes so much sense. So I went in thinking, but now I'm actually wondering if maybe Disney actually engaged in some misinformation because they know, like,
or they
if they
leaked it and someone got assassinated. Yeah.
Well, like, if they deliberately leaked on the internet all these fan theories that weren't true in order to preserve what is actually going to happen in the movie.
Well, that happened with
like,
episode 7. Like, an image of Snoke leaked. An image of Snoke leaked that apparently someone got from Disney that was, like, not at all what he looked like. And that leaked in, like, November of 2015.
Yeah.
I remember that because people were commenting on that, too. And then we saw in real life, like, oh, wait.
That's a new age of movies where they realize they have to sort of do counterintelligence against the internet in a way. Because the internet might ruin
when they
everything.
did Captain America's Serpent Society instead of Civil War, like, they said, oh, actually, it's Serpent Society.
Yeah.
And, like, no one knew it was Civil War. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Anyway.
Speaking of random, like, trying to keep things hidden in online stuff, have you seen the image of the Google satellite image of the Millennium Falcon?
What?
Like,
No.
So if you go on Google and go on Google, I think it's Google Maps, Millennium Falcon, and it's the first story, and it's this satellite image from above of obviously the Millennium Falcon on a location being surrounded by all these trucks that are trying to obscure it from people on the ground, but if you've got the satellite, so it's obviously there. It's just this funny, like, people have just found the Millennium Falcon in a view from space.
It was like the set of Suicide Squad, and, like, there was, like, a cloak that had, like, the Batman ears pointing up. It's like, well, I wonder what that is.
yeah. But yeah, in Longcross, Chertsey, we have no idea. In the UK, where they filmed some of Star Wars, there was it was found on Google Maps. I think if you go on Google Maps and put in the address as the Millennium Falcon, it finds it for you.
But here's my thing, right? Like, oh, the Millennium Falcon's in the movie. What? It's not like they went to, like, Google Maps and found, like, Anakin Skywalker confirmed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you didn't see Hayden Christensen stepping out of a black windowed car. I'm sure Frank Oz had to try to get to that Star Wars set. My God, they might even film that in his house just to keep it as secure as possible.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, I just think it's funny how they've clearly in the image gone to so much effort to hide the Millennium Falcon. Right? They've put a tarp over it. It's covered all the way around with lorries and trucks so that people on the ground can't see it. But you just look at it from space and it's obviously the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
It's just funny. Yeah, if you just Google that, listeners, you'll find that image. I just think it's really funny.
Well, should we wrap it up? Or
I was about to ask you guys actually where this film ranks for you in the overarching Star Wars, kind of to end the discussion here.
Okay, so it's definitely better than all the prequels. I've not got a concrete... I probably need to see it one more time, because like I said, the more I thought about it, the better it got in my mind. And a lot of the issues, which are completely legitimate, there's a lot of reasons why the film isn't perfect and why it does stumble in a few places. But just thematically, it really stuck with me. And I really... Like, I'm clearly in the minority on this podcast, but I really did dig that ending. Like, I think maybe kids watching the film for the very first time, like this brand new generation whose very first Star Wars film maybe was The Force Awakens, that's going to be a very meaningful ending maybe to them. I don't know. I'm not going to speak on behalf of kids everywhere, but I didn't
want to be kid characters when I watched movies when I was young. I was grown ups.
No, we're not going to... I don't think we're going to get in episode 9 that kid is going to turn up and it's like, oh, we found from the archive.
I think my point is, like, if I was 8 years old watching this movie, I'd want to be like a Rey or a Finn because he's black. Or, actually, like, knowing me, I'd want to be Kylo Ren because I'm the bad guy. Like, well, I get to be Kylo Ren.
I want to be Poe because I want to be good looking and half Spanish and awesome. But no, well, someone please...
And then all my friends would tell me that I have to be Snoke. That's just how it always was growing up. Like, no, you be C-3PO. I had to be C-3PO growing up all the time because I'd never like to get dirty. So I had to be C-3PO.
Well, if you want to be Snoke, all you need is a gold dressing gown and no other clothing.
And watching people hold hands.
But in terms of ranking, this could probably change by the day, but I rank it kind of on the level of Rogue One, which I thought was the best Star Wars film to come out since The Empire Strikes Back. So I kind of maybe on par with. Maybe on par with Rogue One or A New Hope, like high up there, definitely in the top half. So, but without actually having the films in front of me, I probably couldn't have a definitive listing. I might just write one down real quick.
Well, for my ranking, my top 3 would be the original trilogy, and I'd have Empire Strikes Back being the best, then A New Hope being the second, and then Return of the Jedi being the third. But I would actually put this slightly above Return of the Jedi, which I guess technically would make it my number 3. And yeah, that's where I put it. Yeah. And of course, right at the top would be Star Wars Holiday Special, of course.
Oh, obviously.
Yes, we are.
Well, that just ascends. That ascends what?
Trey, it's a week until Christmas. We can still do this.
Yes.
Yeah, right. All right. If you come back, we'll do the holiday special. It just ascends to a whole new thing. It's the room of Star Wars movies. No, but
cancel your Christmas plans. December 25th, we're doing this.
Either that, or I'll do with Trey what we said we should do before. I'll just take some clip of him saying yes, and I'll just insert that all the way through. What do you think, Trey? Yes. Yeah. Well, that's not an answer, Trey. Yes.
I don't know. Okay, so
this is best Star Wars movie.
That being
Trey,
said,
why are you so positive? Why are you so
we just
positive?
include that being said all throughout it, you know.
I loved that scene. That's neither here nor there.
Yes, but anyways, so as I was saying, in terms of how I would rank the movies...
Better than Baby Driver.
Christopher Nolan. Who? So I'd go Empire first, obviously.
Yes.
I might put this... It's probably in terms of like a Star Wars movie. In terms of what Star Wars needs, I'd put it on par with A New Hope. In terms of my personal enjoyment, it sits underneath Force Awakens for me, and so it's like this really sweet spot where it's like Empire, New Hope, Force Awakens, this Rogue One, and then Return of the Jedi. But in terms of as a Star Wars movie, it goes like on par for me with A New Hope in terms of like, this is such a really cool Star Wars movie. I don't know. It's nowhere near as good as Empire, in my opinion. It just doesn't have that sense of, to use the word I already used, transcend. It doesn't necessarily transcend what it is like Empire does. Empire's so good. Like everything about Empire just works in a way that no other Star Wars movie does. Like even New Hope, as much as I love A New Hope, it has some slow moments, it has some cheesy moments, but Empire is just so good.
Okay, so I've just written down my ranking, which could completely change. But so from worst to best, Attack of the Clones, Phantom Menace, Revenge of the Sith, The Force Awakens, Return of the Jedi, Rogue One and Last Jedi could tie in this spot completely. That's interchangeable. Then A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back.
Okay.
That's my ranking, but like I said, I'm in the minority where I think Rogue One is like a great Star Wars film.
Yeah. I thought it was a good Star Wars film. Yeah, so I'm...
I need to rewatch Rogue One and rewatch Last Jedi, and that could completely change the list.
It has some good moments. It's like eating like a cheese sandwich with like white bread. I'm being fed, I guess. You know.
What's wrong with white bread, Trey? Classic racism. Say,
bread matters.
But like I said, I'm a theme guy, which is why Rogue One kind of stuck with me. It's not a good character film, but it's a good theming
is, we're not going to go into this.
We don't have time.
We don't have time to debate why Rogue One's a terrible movie.
Go back to our spoiler film review this time last year, and I think I made my argument quite clear.
Oh God, Trilby became General. This is General. I'm looking for General Hux. Is he there? All right, I'll hold.
See, when Trilby cranks up the Britishness, you're in trouble.
When he starts really holding on to those T's and really emphasizing those consonants.
Poppycock.
When you hear him dropping the sugar cubes into his tea, that's when you know he's really firing up.
Ironically,
he grows. He starts growing a monocle. Yeah,
I never do this, but for this podcast, I did put sugar in my tea.
I never put sugar in my coffee.
I never do it, but I guess tonight I'm just feeling it.
Yeah,
I stopped taking sugar in my coffee like probably 6 months ago. So, okay, let's jump to listener questions. Why don't we?
Excuse me. I'd like to ask you a few questions.
All right, guys, this is the listener question portion of the show because you answer listener questions on the Facebook page. I had a question and I lost it. Oh, I had it. It was a good one too.
I've got a question if you want to try. So Tom Quirk asks, do you have any faith in the upcoming Han Solo movie?
Nope.
I have faith in it being mediocre to okay, because we've got Ron Howard. There's only so much wrong that can go, I guess, but I don't think we're going to have an interesting Star Wars film.
Have you seen Angels and Demons? Didn't he direct that?
He also directed Rush.
Yes, which is one of the best movies ever.
And Apollo 13.
So?
And I think we are going to get a middle-of-the-road, perfectly fine Star Wars movie in the hands of Ron Howard, whereas with Lord and Miller, we could have had something that was just full of tonal whiplashes, but we probably would have had something really interesting and fun to talk about, whereas I don't think we're going to have that with Solo, a Star Wars story.
I agree.
It could be okay. But I think Ron Howard can be a very good filmmaker when he's not doing like Inferno or In the Heart of the Sea or How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And people are going to hate me, but that film's no good. And my fiance makes me watch it every Christmas, and it's no good.
How is that movie in any way Dr. Seuss? It's so gray and bland, and it has this weird white filter. It's not colorful in any way, shape, or form.
It's oddly grim.
Yes.
It's
like, mean-hearted. It's not at all what Dr. Seuss would be.
Jim Carrey elevates that film, but it's no good.
If you want to watch a good Dr. Seuss movie, watch the original Grinch animated movie. I don't see why you don't watch that.
Yeah, and listen to that. Who is it? Just the voice of the song,
Boris Karloff.
Boris Karloff. I thought it was him. But I didn't want to I didn't want to blaspheme.
Why do I know that? But I do not know how to do outro. Anyways, I know all of this stuff. Anyway, okay.
So Tom, it seems like only half of us on this podcast have faith, and because half out of three of us, because I have so faith.
Yeah, no chance in hell the movie's gonna be kind of good. I don't know.
Right.
It comes out in like 5 months, doesn't it?
It does. The trailer should be out probably like January.
Does it really come out that soon? Okay.
It comes out in May. Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't push it back, even though they reshot an estimated 80% of the film,
and they cut out like complete like wasn't what's his face? Didn't they cut out Woody Harrelson? Did I read that somewhere?
No, they did cut out another guy. I forget his name.
Yeah,
but he was a black actor.
Michael Kenneth Williams. What's his name? Yeah,
it might have been him.
They cut him out completely of the film because they rewrote it and reshot it, I guess, which is so odd.
Yeah, it was down to scheduling. He couldn't make the reshoot, so they had to recast him.
Yeah,
Michael K. Williams.
Yeah. All right. So Marco Portuan. Wait, did you have something you want to say, Bandit, about Han Solo?
No, I'm just not really interested. But I'll say so while you were saying that, I was scrolling through the Facebook. So it looks like you guys actually say you guys are live commenting during the podcast. I didn't know you did that now. Saying, "Oh, this was answered on the show."
We also put a cut-off point sometimes.
Yeah, go ahead. Absolutely.
Okay. Mesalt's Films says, "What are some books you think shouldn't be or couldn't be translated onto the screen?" Now that's
The Last Jedi novelization by Alan Dean Foster. Did he do this one? I don't know if he did this one.
Well, I think the it's interesting because didn't they say that Game of Thrones was unfilmable as a movie, which it certainly is, and that's why they made it into a TV show, and it's increasingly becoming unfilmable as a TV show as well. But and I think there's other movies as well. Like they said, Cloud Atlas
it was a
be
fine season. It was a good season, Bandit. It had some great moments in it. All right, I know they killed our favorite character, but we can get through it. All right, just watch the last season and get it done with. I know you don't want to watch it, but just bear it with us, okay?
I probably will. If I'm still addicted to Walking Dead, I suppose I'll still be addicted to Game of Thrones.
That's what I was gonna say. I'm like, I don't know how you can keep watching Walking Dead and crap all over Game of Thrones. Like, I don't understand how you can just get through Game. I don't know what's wrong with you.
I guess it's because I cared more about Game of Thrones than I do about Walking Dead. Walking Dead, I'm just like, yeah, of course it's always going to be crap. Yeah. But anyway, getting back to the question, is like, there's a number of books that have been written that people say can never be filmed, and they have been filmed, and they're always terrible. So technically anything can be filmed.
Life of Pi.
Yeah, Life of Pi was said to be unfilmable, but then CGI happened, so you could put a tiger and a strange man on a boat. But I didn't like that film.
But to this
Gee,
one,
Shelby, thanks. You really help a brother out there. Yeah, thanks.
But to this one, I actually say...
I'm not gonna lie.
A book that shouldn't or couldn't be translated onto film, I'm going to say World War Z. And I know you're going to say it's already been done, No, because
Yeah,
World War
it
Z
wasn't.
has absolutely
only.
nothing whatsoever to do with the book.
Yeah.
Apart from the name and the fact there's zombies in it, those are the only two things it has in common with the book. So technically, that book has not really been put on film, and I don't think it ever could be because of the way it's structured. It's like each sort of
it would
chapter
have to be like an anthology TV series, wouldn't it?
Exactly, yeah. Each chapter is like an interview format written by a historian in different places all around the world, getting this whole picture of this worldwide zombie apocalypse and how it affected different people in different places. You couldn't do that in a movie. So
I don't know.
Really
I think that sounds like a challenge. That sounds like a challenge to me. I don't know.
Well, if you did it in a film, it would have to be like, say, like the Twilight Zone movie or VHS, where it would have to be this anthology like movie where it's comprised of about 5 or 10 minute films.
Yeah.
I think it would have to be that sort of structure, but there's really no market for that anymore outside of really, really niche cinemas, and you're not going to get a big budget zombie film in that environment.
Yeah, so like he said, either shouldn't or couldn't be translated onto the film. I don't think that could be translated onto the film effectively.
Or faithfully, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. What do you guys reckon? What books do you think?
Well, in a sense, like, okay, so Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events came out, like, they did the Netflix show, right? And I don't read a lot of books, and you guys are about to find that out recently, because I'm talking about books I read 10 years ago, but those books, like, defined my childhood. Like, I love those books. I can name pretty much everything from those books, and I love it so much. And I think the Netflix show really shows that it's difficult to really capture that tone that the books are able to capture, that almost like that Tim Burton but darker tone. It's not silly. It's very dramatic and it's very earnest in its presentation. It just happens to be family friendly in how dark and grim it is. And the Netflix show really makes it seem very silly, very Wes Anderson like, or late Tim Burton kind of tone, when in reality it should be incredibly serious. So maybe they shouldn't keep trying to adapt this series because it's not working. I'm not a fan of it, and I'm probably not going to watch the next season. Yeah.
I'm thinking these weird religious epics, like, say, any of the Scientology books or the Bible or Atlas Shrugged. Like, no, do not bother. Do not bother with those.
Yeah.
For many, many reasons. Mein Kampf probably shouldn't be adapted.
The book by Hitler?
Yeah, just going straight for the jugular there.
I feel like a really, like, Martin Scorsese's Mein Kampf. Like, could you just imagine?
If Scorsese did it and Leonardo DiCaprio I would be interested. Yeah. I probably wouldn't like it, but
actually,
instantly...
That actually would be kind of interesting.
Yeah, but like if a prestigious director with a massive cast did something like that, I would
Quentin Tarantino's Star Trek. You're like, how?
I thought you were going to say Tarantino's Mein Kampf then.
But that would be World War II from the perspective of Hitler, pretty much.
Yeah,
it would be Inglourious Basterds too.
Which no one has ever seen before.
It would be like Julius Caesar, it'd be like this really epic tragedy of like this poor hero, that ends up shooting himself or whatever, or going off the grid, whatever happens to Hitler at the end of that story.
You remember back when we reviewed Birth of a Nation? And we were saying, like, Birth of a Nation, like, that was, like, the first movie to be shown in the White House to the president. If they redid Mein Kampf, we could probably get Trump to watch it in the White House.
Oh, he'd endorse it. Like, I love the story. I love the hero. He was fantastic. I could see myself in him a lot. Huge, believe me.
No politician was ever treated as unfairly, apart from me, as Hitler was.
God, that guy is oh my God, how could we have done what? It's like at the end of The Hobbit. What have we done? Oh God.
Better than the alternative.
Oh, you know what? All right, Liam's
and that's why you don't do these massive politically charged epics.
Exactly.
On Facebook asks, if you were an antagonist in any film, what kind of antagonist would you be?
I'd be the best. I'd be huge. I'd be best antagonist. Everyone says so. Everyone says I'm best antagonist. Everybody says so.
Believe me. What about you, Bandit?
Sorry, I was reading another question. Sorry, what was the question?
If you could be any antagonist in a movie, what kind of antagonist would you be?
Okay, so we're looking for antagonist archetypes, or like I can choose.
This can either be in an The question says this can either be in an already existing film franchise, like, for example, you could be Darth Vader, or it can be a made-up one of your choice, so your own wholly original creation.
Oh, well, I'd like to be a character who exists in Marvel Comics, who is an antagonist called Hindsight Lad. Because
Captain Hindsight from South Park.
Yeah, that's basically who he is.
What's his name? Hindsight Lad.
His superpower is he has the incredible power of hindsight. So he shows up after the Avengers have fought a big battle. Not before they fought the battle, but after the battle, he shows up and he tells all the heroes exactly what they did wrong and how they can do better next time. I'd love to be that guy in a movie.
That reminds me of the South Park.
The rubble go, now see, Captain America, you really should have done this, and he'd just be like, shut up, you.
It'd be like the South Park character, like when there's like a building on fire, it's like, and the guy flies down, it's like, you see that wall? They should put a fire escape right there, and he flies away. Thank you, Captain Hindsight. I think that's exactly what it sounds
I'm on the Hindsight Wikipedia page, and there's a segment for the Civil War comic book series, and he's okay. So Hindsight was seen following the disaster of the reality TV series that inadvertently caused Nitro to explode, killing most of the team and hundreds of the town's residents. Yeah. He becomes unhinged at the news and turned against his former teammates, setting up an inflammatory anti-news warriors website, destroyallwarriors.com.
He's the internet troll. He's the comic version of the internet troll. That's who he is.
Okay,
that
so
is
powers
appropriate.
Powers and abilities. Hindsight possesses no supernatural abilities.
I thought he had a little bit in hindsight. So
this is just what the Wikipedia page says. So maybe he has no powers, but he is just good at common sense and hindsight.
Yeah.
So abilities: minimal computer researcher and programmer skills.
I would love
the use
it if
of the
they
word
include
minimal
him in Avengers Infinity War. Even if they just make him like a side character who's just like an internet blogger who just keeps trolling them about all the mistakes.
He's like the villain in Spider-Man 2. Like those versions, Flash Thompson becomes Hindsight.
So as Thanos is like laying the smackdown on Spider-Man, Hindsight flies in and says, "Spider-Man, I'm here to help. You shouldn't have picked a fight with this man."
Yeah, maybe you should go get that Iron Spider suit. It'd been really useful right now.
It'd be like that bit in the Ghostbusters remake where they keep going back to the internet comments in the movie.
Yes.
Be like that. Oh, I can see Bruce Banner reading the nasty internet comments and be like, then like try to stop himself from hulking out about it. You know?
But okay, so that's the type of antagonist Bandit would be. Trey, what type of villain would you be?
Definitely not that. No, but I don't know. My ideal antagonist is one like doesn't have to necessarily like beat anybody up or attack anybody. It's just the one that just makes does the choices that really makes the hero like writhe. Like I think the reason The Dark Knight's the best movie ever is because of just how manic and the Joker is and everything the Joker does as a character. You know, like Darth Vader is great, but he is a physical match for Luke Skywalker. You know, but the Joker just. What he does, Hannibal Lecter thinks is one of the prime examples of how all the things he does without ever having to get from behind that glass. I mean, eventually he does, but how he just feels like such an adversary before they ever actually ask him to do anything. I know, those are my favorite kind of villains. I'd be the one that you...
Wouldn't you rather be like the Jack Nicholson Joker, though? Because he seems like he's genuinely enjoying himself. I think like the Heath Ledger Joker... He's not really enjoying himself. He's in
he sees that as like an opportunity.
Oh, if you had to plant me into a movie, I'd want to be Vader in Rogue One easily. Let me kill some rebels for 20 minutes, just like because he's smiling underneath that mask. He's like, this is gonna be so cool. it's like when you have a magnifying glass as a kid and you just see a hill of ants. Like, this is gonna be fun. I have an idea. You know,
I can imagine myself just being really shit at villainy. Like, I would be the guy at the beginning of The Dark Knight who, when the bat signal's in the sky and there's the criminal in the car saying, "No, not tonight. Not tonight. He's out there. The bat signal's up. How is going to get me?" And then when Scarecrow shows up in the car park, he's like, I said that I'd take you places, not places you wanted to go." And I'd be the guy who the Scarecrow is screwing over. I would be terrible at villainy.
You'd be the guy you'd take out in the cold open.
I would be that guy. I would be the villain at the beginning of Justice League who is dangled off the rooftop because the Paradigms can smell fear.
You're the bank robber that might as well be carrying a sack of money with a $sign on it.
Yep. Yeah, and I've got the striped convict shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Classic burglar.
Yeah. All right. Tell you what.
Any more questions?
Don't you have to take off, Bandits? We could have ended here.
Yeah, but there is a good one here that I think would be interesting.
Well, go ahead.
From Marco Putundo says, which
Yes.
Avenger do you think each of you are? Now,
Tony Stark, Bibbs.
Well, I want to be Thor, but specifically in the episode where he's hanging out with his flatmate Daryl. I want to be him. I want to be that.
Yeah, you want to be Team Thor.
Honestly,
Yeah.
Bennett, that's actually. I feel like that's actually you in real life. Like, this is my mate Daryl. Honestly, Bennett, if you're any Avenger, I feel like you're like Korg. You're just kind of there, just like. Have you seen Ragnarok? I feel like you're just like Korg, the rock guy. It's like, hey
I
man.
like it. In Ragnarok, in Ragnarok, Thor is just Aussie now. He's just an Aussie.
Yeah.
I told my friends, I was like, when you see it, he's just Australian now. And they're like, yeah, he is. He's just an Aussie. We're like, that's great.
He's a French for what?
So you'd be Tony Stark, would you, Trey?
Easy. I can't be anybody else. It doesn't make any sense.
Actually, you know what? I kind of can see that.
Yeah. If you knew me in my personal life, you'd know that I'm a Tony Stark.
Because you're kind of in charge of the podcast, but you're also kind of irresponsible.
Thanks.
I think I'd probably be Ant-Man.
Put me on blast, why don't you?
Actually, Trilby, I could see you as a Loki.
Really?
What's mischievous?
I always thought
Backstabber.
Yeah, but I'd see you as a Loki, but more when he's more of the nice Loki, you know, because
Oh, so
sometimes
like
he
Loki-
switches back to being the good guy. Like when he's
so
being
Loki
a
in the
good guy,
first act of
Loki.
Thor.
It's because he's English. Is that why? Because like because
That could be.
I don't know. I always almost like a Bruce Banner. It's like the guy that's like maybe Trey, maybe we shouldn't anger the audience. Trey, I'm like, no, what's wrong with it? Don't worry about it.
No, but
Oh,
Trills-
yeah, and to
but
go
Trilby
back
always-
to Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
To go back to Ragnarok, it's like so. Trilby, what did you think of this movie? I'm undecided.
No, I know. Trilby, you're the Vision. You're Vision. That's who you are.
That's
Because you're the
actually
guy
perfect.
who always keeps his cool and always has the level head. And like when me and Trey are screaming at each other, you're always calm. So you'd be Vision.
Yeah. But I also
Yeah,
feel like
so
Bandit
I'm the
would
first to be
always
off in
freak me
Infinity
out
War.
If I created a murderous robot, Bandit would tell me. What was it? I didn't hear it.
I'm the first to be off in Infinity War because Thanos needs that gem.
Yeah.
Grab that
Like,
gem, you guys.
Meanwhile, I'm chilling with like Doctor Strange and Bandit's just over here, just like, do Space Guardians. It's worth it none of us to Captain America. I kind of feel like if Bandit wasn't Thor, he'd be Captain America.
Actually, Trey, you
But that's
kind
just
of are
because-
Captain America-like.
In a
you are a
sense,
little
I'd
bit.
have to be.
Would any of us be Doctor Strange? Probably not.
No, I'm
Nah.
not that. Well, I am very confident in my amazing abilities, but I think that makes me more Tony Stark than anything.
I am British. So I could be Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange.
It's all right.
No,
you can be
you have to do
Rocket
your best
Raccoon
house
if you want to,
impersonation,
even though
Trilby.
he's
Give me your best American accent, Trilby. I got you. Go ahead.
I don't even know where to begin.
Just act like Dr. House. Have you seen the show House? Just be House.
Yeah, I have, but I couldn't quote him. I couldn't quote House. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't want to. I'm tired.
I got an idea. Trilby, repeat after me. I am Groot. That's who you are.
I am Groot.
There we go.
Well, we could do the same thing with Guardians of the Galaxy because I'm definitely Rocket and Bandit's definitely Star-Lord.
Well, I was actually thinking Bandit's more like Rocket.
Avengers, so.
You think if Bandit's anyone, if he's either Star-Lord or Drax, I don't know. I just feel like because if Trilby's Groot, then I kind of have to be Rocket. You know what I mean? Like we're always just out having space adventures. I don't know. I can just see me and Trilby just out like, I'm like, Trilby, don't drink that water. It's bad. And Trilby's just like, but water.
Mm-hmm. We are Groot, everybody.
Aw, thanks, Trilby. And on that, we're going to end the show. Thank you guys all so much for listening. Like and subscribe. Great episode talking about The Last Jedi, a movie I'm glad we all enjoyed. I should yell a spoiler, but I won't because you guys probably skipped to listener questions. Where can people find you?
People can find me on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter as Bandit Incorporated, or on my secondary channel that no one knows about, where I review Australian Survivor, which is called Bandit Strategy. It's something like 300 people that follow that. But
Hello, I'm one. Yes, actually. Yes, Chaos Theory.
yeah, so they can find me there, yeah. Where can people find you, Trilby?
You can find me on my website at www.trubby.com. You can find me on my YouTube at Trubby Reviews or Mr. Titus Reviews. You can also find me on my own podcast at the Film Brits Podcast, which you can find on iTunes or on your respective podcast feeds on your smart devices. However, just give us a subscribe and a rate, and also rate the Movie Mania Podcast while you're there as well. And Trey, where can people find you online?
Okay, I'll hold. I had to. All right, you guys can find me on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram, all at Podcast Media. Thank you all for watching, and catch you all later. Our movie maniacs Luke dies.